Yes, indeed. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Goglings, Gogorifics, and Gog Peoples. It has been too long since we've heard that theme, but I'm glad that it's back tonight. I am glad that we are back here as we welcome you to episode 457 of Pen and Pixels. I am your host, Arvin Elleron. This is the show that focuses on story and narrative here every Tuesday afternoon, and it is a great privilege and honor to be with all of you lovely people as By the Dice Roll returns, playing Dungeons & Dragons Ghosts of Saltmarsh. It's good to see everyone, and I'm excited for the session today. I'm excited for the future with this group. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait. But before we get to any of that, just a couple of quick reminders. If you haven't done so already, please follow us here on GogCom's Twitch channel. Please consider subscribing to us here on GogCom's Twitch channel as well. And please, if you have not done so already, consider clicking through and checking out our individual channels because we have our own Patreons and subsystems and good stuff like that. We are going to be on with you today until a little bit after 7 p.m. Eastern, at which point I will give way to eventually, not immediately, but eventually Kilgore Trout, who will be coming on later this evening. I would also encourage people to come back to my channel on Thursday night when I'm going to be continuing playing another GOG game, which is Caves of Kood. Having a great time with that game, even though I get lost quite a bit, but that's fine. That's part of the fun. And then on Saturday, for those of you who are into the tabletop scene, more of it with Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. Very excited about that because that campaign, which is kind of a mashup of things, is also, just writing myself a note here, bear with me a second, because that also is a kind of mashup of science fiction and fantasy, and has a lot of D&D sort of chops as a part of it. So I am super excited for that. It's going to be awesome and amazing, and you're definitely going to want to check that out because that place is getting all crazy like. But that is going to be happening here shortly. However, sorry, one other note, then I'll have to stop trailing off. Because we had this thing, wait just a second, there is this, and there's that, and then we have this. Great, had to repost something for social media. One's work is never done. So I'm excited for all of that. It's going to be a good time, and I cannot wait. But before we go any further, I am going to introduce the crew to you. So I'm going to unmute myself and apologize to anyone that I interrupted because I could not hear them. I'm sorry. And then I am going to unmute them. And last but not least, I'm going to head over to reveal. It is very exciting that we are back together with the By the Dice Roll crew. It is good to see them all, and I will just note very quickly at the beginning that Undeveloped Bruce, as I mentioned earlier on my own channel, is feeling under the weather and so cannot join us today, unfortunately. So Green may be giving us some of that 1,000-yard, 1,000-turtle stare at moments today. But I am very happy, though, that we have Inanda back with us, and we will talk to Inanda in just a little bit. But first of all, I will start on the left of the screen of By the Dice Roll with the GOG team's fearless leader, and that, of course, is Pyron Jade. Pyron, it is good to see you. How is life in the universe with you, and who are you playing this evening?
Not as fearless as I sometimes want to be. Sometimes new fears get unlocked by just talking
in the
to
green
people.
room. Yeah, green room is a dangerous place, people. Dangerous.
Just happens. Just happens. I'm doing okay. I would say it's been a little bit. So November, December, January have been a little bit tough in real life, but yay, we're getting there. I'm sure. So I am playing Waves Crashing Against Rocks tonight, as usual. It is a Kenku Paladin, but a dex-based Paladin, which is pretty cool. But tonight, because Bruce is not here, I'll also take over Green, who is a turtle cleric pacifist. Yeah. And I'll try to do Green to honor Green as the character that he is. I'll try to do the voice and everything. If it sounds ridiculous or something, it's not because I want to ridicule Green, because I really, really don't want to do that. I'm just trying my best here.
Remember that Bruce specifically indicated that there needs to be a lot of cleaning. So there needs to be a lot of, you know, that's a big instruction for Green, is to clean things at all costs. I am excited to see that happen. But where's my... Oh, my Twitch chat's over there. Good. All right. I found it where everything is. Thank you, Pyron. Always a pleasure to have Pyron with us. I've been trying to follow in Pyron's footsteps, as I have now put in about 10 or 11 hours into Caves of Kood, so I am now only about 17 times behind her in the Caves of Kood work.
I'm sorry, but that was so unreal. I've been playing a lot of Caves of Kood since a few years ago, and then I was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna have a quick look how Arv is doing. And so I switched into the stream and like, why is our friends with the snapjaws? Why is our friend with the goat folks?
Wander mode.
Why is he having a fungal infection and another disease on top of it? That's gonna be an interesting run.
Yeah, wander mode, and I actually have to work on curing that disease, which I will do, because I don't actually like being a fungal head. It's not my thing. But I'll do that eventually. In the meantime, I've been having fun getting lost and unlost again repeatedly. And my way of experience is to make friends with people, not just kill them. That's my Caves of Kood experience. But no, I have been really enjoying it a lot. So I appreciate Pyron's and I know Darksaber's recommendations on this front. So good stuff. Get Kood, basically. I am getting good at Kood. I mean, to the extent anyone can get good at it, but it's been a lot of fun. Always a pleasure to have Pyron Jade here. Also, always a pleasure to have Darksaber 2K, who I have to admit, when I saw this shirt for a moment, I'm like, Jesus, did you get merch for us already? Like, how did we get By the Dice Roll? But because I was just like, it's there.
I thought exactly the same thing.
Oh man, I straight up definitely want to get. We're gonna have merch. We have plans, chat. It's a long overall running thing, but we do have plans for merch with By the Dice Roll. But it is a pleasure to have Saber with us as well. As always, thank you, Saber, for the dashboard and Moobot. And I do want to quickly mention, just before you introduce yourself, that my son, Kalen, who of course you have met, Mini Arv, reported having, about a few days ago, having a dream in which you featured prominently. You had set up a Ninja Warrior course in your house. And he was doing this Ninja Warrior course, and you were basically encouraging him, except that he said at the end of the course you hadn't finished it. So that was the course of his dream, and like I just wanted to tell you that, because he was like, tell Saber that I had a dream about a ninja course in his house that he didn't finish. So now I've told you that.
And even then I didn't finish what I started.
how are you otherwise, Saber? How's everything, and who are you playing today?
I'm all right, thank you. Been looking forward to this. The Monastery of Dubious Craftsmanship.
Great, I love it.
Titled the stream.
Love the title. Well done.
I am both with a Gregorians, and I'm currently apoplectic with rage over the shoddy states of this abbey.
Yep. It's absolutely criminal that this should not be allowed. Very excited for Saber to contribute tonight as always. Thank you, Saber. Also a pleasure to have Wholesome Horror Gaming, otherwise known as Peripheral Mike here. Mike, who's become, is now once again the super highly respected man of business, but has managed to take just a bit of time for us, which is great. I appreciate it in the midst of building the media empire that will soon accompany Mike wherever he goes. It's good to see you, Mike. Happy New Year as well. How's everything with you, and so on? And who are you playing this evening?
Yeah, really good. In none of speak, I got a job. There you go. I'm no longer unemployed, which is really nice.
I said no lies. None of what I
yes,
said.
He said no lies. He just used lots more words. Spot the author of the group. He used a lot more words to say the same thing. So I got a job. GG, everyone. GG. It only took me nearly 200 applications, which was wild. Absolutely wild time over Christmas. But yeah, I'm really loving it. It's very tiring because it's new and I'm having to learn a lot of stuff. But I've not felt something I said recently. I have not felt this sense of purpose in a job, excuse me, for a long time, in a number of years, which feels really nice.
Good.
What I don't like is I don't like having a flu/inner ear infection, which I'm still suffering from. If you've watched me on my channel, I've slowly gotten slightly better, but it is still present. So apologies if I seem a bit kind of spaced out a little bit. That's probably why. But anyway, today I'm going to be playing Silvo Janus Betulus, our half-elven aberrant mind sorcerer, who has just started to figure out what his magic is all about, thanks to Keladek the Unspoken, and also the lovely kind of joining of thoughts, minds, and prayers from his comrades as well. And yeah, he's very thankful that he didn't die on the sand dunes like he assumed he was going to.
It was a decent guess, although I had no doubt that you would always survive in the end. Although I have to say that as of right now, I don't, for some reason on the map, I don't see. Oh, there you are. You. Okay. You were saying that and I was like, why? Thank you for the follow on my channel. I was saying that and I'm like, why don't I see you over here? And then I realized it was because green was blocking your token. So for a minute I'm like, are we sure that Silvo survived? But Silvo
just under green. I'm protected by another party member at all times.
You cast shell and it was very effective.
Yeah. I cast meat shield.
I cast meat shield. But thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure to have Wholesome Horror Gaming with us, who is also, by the way, spearheading a video release from By the Dice Roll coming soon. So TM, so be on the lookout for that. Yeah, so be on the lookout for that as well. And I'm sorry you're not feeling well, but hopefully we can help you forget a little bit about the illness whilst you are here. It is also a great pleasure to welcome Inanda back. Inanda, it is very, very good to see you. We have all missed you, and we're very happy to have you back in your proper place. Yeah, how are you doing today? How are you feeling today? And where will the lovely and what not where the lovely folks, you can tell us that later. How are you doing today and who are you playing? That's what I meant to ask you.
Hello, it's lovely to be back. It's been a hot minute since I've been on Twitch, so thank you so much for bearing with me. But yes, I'm doing okay. Thank you very much. I'm having second Christmas tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to.
That's good.
And River is also here as well. She is settled down on the floor, and she hasn't been in here with me streaming for a good while as well, so she's being a very, very good girl. But yeah, today I'm going to be playing Brian the Bloodthirsty, who might suffer with intermittent amnesia, having, for me, not being around for a little while. So if I seem confused, that's just a normal state of affairs for me. But for today, for Brian as well. She's a Water Genasi fighter pirate. And yeah, looking forward to getting back into the campaign.
Good stuff. Let's do it all.
Also, congratulations to Mike as well.
Yes, super congratulations to Mike. Well deserved, and
I get to pay my mortgage.
Jeez, I mean the whole business. This is why, as I say, once we all get there and we create this media empire that I mentioned, with By the Dice Roll involved with it, that'll be good. I think we'll all be happy about that. But before we get there, we have the great fortune to be streaming for chat with all of you. So let me fire up the music. hold on a second. Okay, good. I think I maybe too loud. Okay, good. I have my desert winds. Excellent. All right, so here we go, chat. In our last session, the crew from Saltmarsh, brought together by fate, fortune, and family circumstance, have made their way from the town of Saltmarsh to the Isle of the Abbey. And the reason that they have come to the Isle of the Abbey is because they have been told that there is an undead presence here. There are some evil there were, I should say, some evil clerics that were associated with this undead presence here, and that this is one of the central areas through past which an invasion of the Sahuagin might take place of Saltmarsh. And as we know, that invasion has been looming on the horizon for some time now, ever since the party had a meeting with the lizard folk and discovered that such an invasion might be in the offing. Since then, they have managed to get some credibility and respect from the council, although not as much as they would hope. So it is a classic example of, why should we believe these strangers, blah, 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 blah. And again, you have to go convince the council of what's best for them so that the people of Saltmarsh don't get slaughtered. But then on top of that, there was this gathering of information related to the Isle of the Abbey. And the thought was, if they went to the Isle of the Abbey and A, got information about the undead threat, and B, could have a foothold established for the good people of Saltmarsh, which would make an invasion more difficult for the Sahuagin, that would be all to the good. So the party, in our last couple of sessions, ended up traveling up to a lighthouse nearby and met the lighthouse keeper, a man named Major Ursa, who explained to them that he knows quite a bit about this particular island, that there was a pirate guild, basically, or a group of pirates that had lived on or near this place. And the pirates had attacked this evil abbey and had apparently burned the abbey to the ground. Having done so, they then left, but there weren't a whole lot of them left by the time they got out of there, and the Mariners Guild, also known as the Good Guys, wiped out what remained, which means that now we have basically an empty abbey, some potentially uncontrolled undead, and some concerns about what exactly the evil abbey and the evil clerics were doing there in the first place, all of which gave the party more information. One of that bits of information, though, was the sandy area that you see directly to the south on your map that were known as the Skull Dunes. They were not known as the Skull Dunes because people had a fertile imagination. They were known as the Skull Dunes because literally there was an entire army of skeletons that was buried beneath those dunes. And using a special map, which the party had found, they managed to trace their way through the dunes, only creating one actual attack. There could have been many more of them, by the way, if they had gone off the trail, but they managed to stay on the trail and so only created one attack of skeletons, which they rapidly were able to defeat, thus getting past it, despite all of their fears, and getting to the side of the isle that you see right now, which is south of the Abbey. And if we scroll up just a little bit, you'll be able to see that ruined area. It's that ruined area which set Morthwheel off, not having anything to do with the fact that he rolled a critical fail in his perception, but just that he was really frustrated with how terrible the Abbey looked and what kind of shoddy construction and what is this knockoff IKEA crap that people are using these days.
Nothing's built to last.
Yeah, none of it is built to last. And so the party made their way forward cautiously and discovered, just as they were getting closer to the ruins, that as they looked from a distance, they could see that there was something moving in this allegedly previously deserted abbey. Which means it may not be deserted after all. Dun, dun, dun. And with that, I'm going to hand things back over to the party. You are once again together looking up at this Abbey-way. And I'll just quickly again describe the fact that the Abbey itself, you can see the sort of ruins there from a distance. And there is sort of a lot of scrub brush and small amount of grass. No trees on this island, by the way. Lots of rocks and things like that, and little bushes and, obviously quite a bit of sand, but nothing in the way of trees or wood or anything like that that you could easily conceal yourself behind. You can try to go behind bushes or little sort of gentle rises in the sand, but that's pretty much the best it is. But you have not heard from anyone, including the lighthouse keeper, that there was anyone still living in the Abbey. And so that is some information that you have to take account of. So with that, I'm going to hand things back over to the party. What would you like to do?
Question. When previously we were having a look at Silvo's crystal ball, as it were, Silvo handed it to me at one point,
Yes.
and I rolled incredibly well
Yes.
and saw. I was looking at sand dunes on a beach. A building was behind it, and a skeletal hand reaches for the ball. I'm assuming that it looks quite similar to where we are now.
I would say so. Of course, you can't know for sure, but it certainly seems pretty bang up on the nose from what you can tell.
With the very clear view I got of that scene, can I tell whereabouts my perspective would have been from where we're standing at the moment?
Probably further south than this, because you would have been standing from a slightly elevated position looking over the sand dunes, the skull dunes, where the skeletons were that you just went through. So probably further south than this. It seems like the skeletal hand was coming from a dune, and once you got to this spot, it's really just sort of flat grassland and so on, more than sand. So you think you're probably past that section, but you're still looking at the abbey, which you did see in your vision in the ball.
Can I retrospectively make sure that when we pass the sand dunes, I let everyone know that how distinctly similar it is to the vision in the crystal ball?
I imagine you could have done that, and yes, for sure. I think Morthwheel also had made reference to some similarity in vision with some of these things too. So yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're going around.
There you go.
I say proceed with caution.
Ah, yes. Well, I'd like to think we're less cautious now. We're out of the potential skeletal minefield, and Silver just looks back at all the sort of littered bones of the skeletons that's just sort of attacked us, and then looks forward. He's like, "Or is the whole thing the dunes?" And he just stands really still.
I think that there's a distinct possibility.
He leans into Brian. He's like, "What's a dune?"
One of the sandy things.
Everything's got sand on it.
Okay, they look like waves.
Those bit. What, like
Waves
birds?
looks at you.
No, not that waves.
Beaks and
They
feathers.
look like ocean waves.
Like those things, and he points over to the skull dunes.
Yeah, but they're made of sand.
Okay, but not those things. And he sort of points towards the abbey. I'm guessing. Just quick question: is the land from here to the abbey, is it kind of still like sandy, or is it just like
No,
it's
mostly
suddenly
grassy.
The dunes. It's mostly grassy.
Mostly grassy.
Okay,
I
so
mean, I will say that there's a lot of wind because there's no trees here. There's a lot of wind that cuts across the island, so there is sand that kind of blows around quite a bit, even loose sand, but not any that's gathering. You're really more on grassland here.
Do you remember when that priest told us that we were looking for the bones of travelers? And he just sort of looks around. He's like, "I'm not picking these up. These are staying here.
I don't feel good about putting them in the bag.
I'm not collecting things that try to eat me. All right, I'm not doing it unless it's going in your bag, Morthwell."
Well, we collected that crocagator.
Wait, did we? Wait, that was a trophy.
Wait.
Wait,
They
what
tried
did
to
you
eat us
put in
and
the
we
bag?
collected it.
What did you put in the bag?
That wouldn't fit me. That was one of the
Just-
big problems.
There's just a wounded, annoyed crocagator that's been in there. You're just waiting for the end fight. You're just like, well, it's gonna be like the ghosts in Lord of the Rings. You're just
I
like,
read
well,
this
guess
in a
what we've got? Rah!
Or we could just turn the crocagator into an additional bag.
Oh, like a giant bag of holding, a giant crocodile leather bag of holding. Now we're talking. That's
would
it.
need
Maybe this is
wheels.
adventure malarkey. Let's just start a fashion business.
Would it be big enough for all of us to ride on it?
The crocagator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gave it to the
100%.
lizard folks. Remember, it's not actually in the bag.
The
No, that's true.
Crocozars.
No. The crocodilers. Who needs a boat? What we do, we get the crocodile, we go back, we get the crocodile, we revive it somehow, or find another one, I guess, and we fashion some sort of like basket on its back, and then there's no stopping us.
We'll just inflate it. It'll be fine.
I think I've been in the sun too long. Shall we go to the abbey?
Are we still on the same scale we were on the sand? Because that threw us.
This is.
Oh, God, yeah.
Let's see. It's a very good question. Give me a second because they changed around the make of
The
this.
Crocozars.
So yeah, okay, very important to note this, and this is important for Ananda too because you weren't here. So yeah, the reason this threw them off before is that, so you know how squares are usually like 5 feet or 10 feet, right? So that square down there, these squares were 500 feet because this is an island that you're on. So really, you were about 500,000. This is about 500 feet squares, 500 foot squares still. So 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. So you're about 3,500 feet, if you had to guess, away, roughly, from the ruined abbey.
What is this bit on the map and this bit?
So that area are basically scrub brush. So there's like very low cut brush. You might, if you lay down completely, just sort of, literally just on your stomach and kind of crawled forward, you probably would not be seen. Although I would point out, crawling through 500 feet of scrub brush might not seem the most, and also there's limits because as you can see, there's lots of empty land in between, but that's basically what that is. There are also some grassy areas, rocks, but again, no wood or trees of any kind that you can see.
Okay. So, shall we head towards the terrifying abbey?
I mean, it seems like the thing to do. We've come this far.
Can Silvo have a quick look around and see so that did we see, sorry, I'll start again, sorry. So did we see the people looking at us from the abbey?
No. In fact, you don't even know that they're people. You just see things moving.
That's fine. So we see some movement.
Northfield didn't.
Okay, excellent stuff.
Morthwheel saw terrible construction. The rest of you, yeah.
Now that we're not so concerned about where our feet are going and we're constantly sort of tiptoeing through the dunes, can Silvo have a look around to see if he sees anyone in the sort of general vicinity spying on us, keeping watch, anything like that?
Sure. Let's have a perception check, please.
A perception check. Where on earth is my character sheet? I should probably have that out. I'll be honest with you. Ever
that
prepared.
could be valuable.
People, ever prepared. I just make it up. You don't ask any questions. Right, there you go. A 20, a non-natural 20.
So you definitely do not see anything in particular spying on you. Although one thing that you note for certain is just as you look around these areas, you may notice that we have the cliff's edge there. But again, if you're talking about 500 feet, then you're talking about a pretty steep and somewhat precipitous drop. And you can see that the coming up from the beach, as I said, it's kind of grassland, but it's also gradually sloping upwards towards the abbey, which means that over that, 2,500, 3,000 feet, you're going to be climbing up. So you will be, it's not a mountain by any means, but definitely it will be higher than the edges of the land. Which means the cliffs around the side are pretty steep, and you would have to assume fairly impassable. Like you wouldn't be able to do. It would be very hard, you think, to bring a boat around from the the back side of the island, as it were, and then use climbing gear to climb up the back of the cliff. You think that would be extremely difficult. So that it seems likely that it's the only way to get to the abbey is via the dunes. And that means that presumably the pirates had to get through the dunes also. Because remember, the lighthouse keeper told you that nobody ever found out what happened to all the pirates, because there used to be a pretty good size of them. Why there were few of them left by the time the Mariners Guild wiped out the remainder. They never actually knew what happened to all of them. So if they had to go through the Skull Dunes, maybe that explains what happened.
So just a quick recap from my own memory, and also anybody who can't remember, the history of the abbey.
Yeah.
This abbey was a functioning abbey, and then pirates attacked it.
No, that's not clear. It's
not clear.
Because it was definitely a functioning abbey, but from all accounts, it was of evil. An abbey of evil clerics and cultists.
I see.
For a long time, there was evidence that pirates used to kind of, swim or take boats around the outside, and it was always seemed as odd that the pirates and the people in the abbey never came to blows. But what they did find out relatively recently is the fact that the pirates did eventually attack and burn the abbey to the ground, and then the invading force was decimated. And by the time the remainder got out, the Mariners Guild took out the rest. So, but the guild, the group that was in that abbey was, from all accounts, evil. And in fact, eventually the Kingdom of Kaland probably would have sent people to deal with it if the pirates hadn't conveniently solved that problem for them.
Okay. So are we assuming, and this is to the group, this is Silvo, is like, are we assuming that the pirates killed the clergy and the undead killed the pirates, or the undead killed everyone? Maybe the pirates came, maybe the clergy and the pirates were in cahoots, and the undead just took them all out.
There seems to be a lot of people in cahoots at the moment.
I think it's safe to assume we can't assume anything.
We'll have to expect the unexpected.
Oh, good. I'm so pleased somebody said that.
Arthur starts like pulling crystals out on springy things.
What I would like to do is scan the immediate vicinity, especially in the short grass, and peering around to see if there's any evidence of battleground where we are. Any bones, any signs of past battles and fights.
There is plenty just behind us. We did just get out of a fight. However, I do understand why you're doing this.
Let me have you make a, I think, perception for this. Not quite investigation yet.
I'd suggest going forward, maybe we don't space out 500 feet apart. I only have little legs. I barely got into help.
That was a terrible idea.
It was hilarious in combat, though. You're like, I'm running.
It wasn't hilarious for the ranged users. Just like, wait, so I have to factor in wind velocity and the curvature of the earth.
Yeah.
And
Brian, no idea. Perhaps you might be equally, maybe you're listening to Morthal's grumbling and you're like, it is true. That's shoddy construction on the Abbey. No.
Right.
The one thing you will say, though, I can tell you for sure, is that you don't notice in the dunes coming up here, many of you noticed skeletal remains that included like spears thrust in the sand or like banners. Like there had been battle of some kind in the Skull Dunes. There was no question about that. Once you get up to here, there's nothing obvious. But there's also, as you look around, you feel a little hopeless about it, Brian, because there's so much, brush and it's not a lot of area that can conceal things above, let's say, 4 feet. But if you were to drop below, I mean, who knows if there's a bunch of dead bodies like held below the thousands of feet of scrub brush or whatever. It's conceivable, but you don't see any obvious signs of battle directly where you are here. No.
Does the Abbey look like burnt? Does it look like it's been set on fire?
It looks
from a distance.
Yes, it looks very much burned. You'll have to get a little closer to see, but you can see a lot of, even from this distance, burned and blackened rubble. And you'd have to see how much when you got there. But yeah, it's definitely been burned badly.
Did it look burned in the vision that I had?
No.
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm when Silvo was wondering who was fighting who, I'm going to say, well, in the vision I had with the skeletal hand that was obviously skeletal, the Abbey was still intact at the time, so maybe the people running the Abbey were also controlling the undead.
It's cursed.
That is true. That is something evil people do. So it is entirely possible something got out of hand, and maybe they created too many skeletons, or something worse. I mean, that's probably not something we should think about right at this moment in time, as we're heading towards the place where this thing probably lives. But whatever.
Only one way to find out.
Cool. Lead the way.
If there's any kind of brush or anything in front of me, I would like to use my swords to kind of like hack away at it a little bit.
Sure.
So that
Did you say the scrub was about 4 feet high? Sorry, Ananda.
Sorry?
Did they say the scrub was 4 feet high?
Maybe a little bit more much. That it's probably more like 2.5, 3. But also I want to point out that
That'd be nose level for me.
Yeah, I was going to say probably more like 2.5, 3. But you can actually see where those patches are, and they are extensive where they are. Like that's 1,000 feet of scrub brush in front of you, right? Like above in front of you. But most of the island you can see does not have that. So like the grass where you're standing, Brian, is mostly just long but waving and long, but not like restrictive grass, like you were standing in a field or something like that. Although it might be enough to maybe Morthwell, that's why you didn't see anything too much, because now that I think of it, it probably is fairly tall grass that you might not see all of. Yeah, that's possible. But you don't need to use your sword, is my point, if you don't want to, because it looks like, unless you go into the scrub brush, other than that, it looks like you should be able to move through this okay-ish.
It's not so much about moving through it. I didn't witness how the skeletons appeared. So my thought process is that if I cut down the long grass as I'm walking through it, there aren't going to be any latent skeletons lying on the ground ready to go.
I got you.
Well, the TLDR of it was the skeletons were like playing Minesweeper. Make a wrong step and skeletons.
Yeah,
Boom,
pretty much.
Straight out of the ground.
So you can certainly do that. I like the Legend of Zelda cut the grass down feel. I will mention though,
could be coins in there.
that it is just so you know, and I'm not telling you not to do this. Be aware it will take quite a while if you're going to advance just cutting down the grass in front of you regularly, because we're talking 500 feet of grass. Like that's all. And it doesn't mean you can't do it. You can. Just be aware it will take more time, so take that into account.
I do it for about like 3 paces and then, this is too much work, and then carry on walking.
Okay.
You see Morthwell eyeing up his arcane firearm. The one he shoots firebolts from. It's like, I can speed things up.
What could go wrong? Shooting a firebolt into waving grass that's all around you. I can't imagine.
I will not criticize any fireball use.
If it was like Minesweeper, are there enough like rocks lying around that I can just like pick up a handful and just kind of throw them where I'm about to walk?
I would, sure, in terms of like pebbles and stones. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'd like to just do that as I'm walking along.
Okay.
Really kind of wish you were physically here for the last session, because we didn't mark out the route we took through the dunes.
It'll make an expeditious retreat an enjoyable experience.
See, it's that sort of clever thinking that's going to get us not killed.
You say that now.
Okay, so as you're making your way forward, also high effect life, are you, and since you're sort of on point here, Brian, are you avoiding the scrub brush? Like when you get to, when you get to here, are you going to cut like this way and this way, or this way and this way, or are you just going to go straight through?
I mean, I'm imagining it's quite thick and probably will be quicker to walk around it than walk through it.
It would seem like that, yes.
Yeah, I walk
Might be
around it.
advisable to throw some stones ahead of you as you go in, just in case.
Yeah, I'm going to throw stones all around. I'm going to throw a few into the brush as going past it as well.
Okay. So you do that. There's a couple of, rustling of the bush and whatever, but nothing comes out as you make your way around. Are you going left or right to walk around?
Left.
Okay. So then as you make your way...
much in the way of animal noises, because it's pretty quiet.
It is. There are some... You do hear occasionally the cry of a seagull from, overhead. But other than that, not a lot of movement of animal creatures on this island. And in fact, it occurs to you now, Morthwell, now that you ask, you have not seen really much animal movement of any kind, including like, sand crabs or insects or, not a lot of that stuff here. It has been a little eerily quiet, except for, as I say, the occasional bird call.
It's a bit weird. There ain't even any of the buzzing of flies to be heard. I mean, they get everywhere. Much like sand.
I have a feeling lots of what is on this island is dead. That doesn't mean it's going to stay dead, but there's a definite evil vibe to this place. Even the buzzards don't want to come around here.
Oh, we go to the loveliest places.
Yeah. Next time we do something like this, can we not do it in somewhere that's like nicely populated, a tourist attraction, not evil cursed island with potential murdering skeletons on it?
A
I'm
nice
fine
city
as long as
break.
there's a
Yeah.
tavern.
Yeah.
Say
Or
again.
yeah, somewhere with a pub.
Say it, Ken Brian. Sorry, I asked you that question just you were taking a drink. Did you say something, Brian? I'm sorry, I missed
I
that.
just said as long as there's a pub or as long as there's a tavern.
Okay, you said
Alright.
a pub thing.
Alright.
All right, so if you folks move your tokens up to here, I would say probably around here.
So I assume we're within about 3 feet of each other walking distance, just to be clear this time.
Just for logistical reasons.
Are
we're
you
actually all
sure?
in the same square.
Aw,
Okay.
okay.
I can see you just fine from back here.
Arf, you will have to
Just a
move
quick
green for me.
I
As
actually
an
was
arrow
just
goes
about to give
past.
you control of green for the moment.
Ah.
So there you go. You can now move green, or should be able to.
Yes.
I'm going to go up here so that I can throw stones ahead as we go.
Okay.
Music's
Now that you're
really putting
here,
me
so
on
you're within
edge.
about 1,000 feet, you can now see the Abbey more clearly. And you can say that all that remains of the Abbey is a great square of stones that are filled with black, burned and blackened rubble. And as you gradually approach the sooty stones, it's obvious to all of you that someone or something has been sorting through the debris, because there are sorted oddments that are piled inside the scorched square of the foundation stones. You can't quite make it out from here, but it looks like the light glints off of like what looks like kind of a pile of something. You see another pile of something. Again, you're still too far away to see exactly what the piles are, but you definitely can see as well what looks like a pile of possibly wood. This is the first. Now you're not 100% sure. You'd have to get closer. If so, this is the first wood that you've seen on the island. But of course, it's inside the building, so maybe that would explain why. But that's what you see to this point from that distance.
Does it look charred?
Yes, unquestionably, the whole building does.
The wood, I mean.
You'd have to get closer to tell that. Still 1,000 feet away.
Okay. I'm going to go on high alert and make sure that I'm checking out if there's any movement in the surrounding area as we approach.
Okay.
Maybe we want to lie low and keep an eye on things for a while, see if something turns up.
I'm down with that. That sounds like a good idea. Is there anywhere to lie low at the moment other than the scrub brush?
Mothwell crouches slightly.
You could probably, if you were to move
And
up
that
a little
one
bit.
blade of grass.
Yeah, exactly. Just give me a second whilst I move people out of the way just quickly. Okay, so not Morthwill and so. Okay, right. The easiest places to move would be the square in front of you. Basically, the area in front of Inanda is grass area, that tall grass again. You could probably sort of duck down and be difficult to see, underneath the waving grass, or to the square immediately to the east of Silvo would be another place like that. There is scrub brush as well that you can see up further, but in terms of just grassland, that's what you see to the north and to the east.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. Hang on. What time of day is it?
I was trying to remember that. I believe that you had come during the afternoon, he said doubtfully, because you went to the lighthouse keeper in the morning, I believe.
Yes.
And then it was another couple hours past that. So probably early afternoon, I would say, maybe 1-2 o'clock. Not a bright sun, kind of gray, in fact, but there is definitely daylight.
So Silver's going to turn to Morthwill and also Brian, who will probably know this better than anyone, and go, well, I mean, observing it does sound like a good idea, but when does it get dark around these parts?
Can I look at the sky and determine how, and obviously knowing what time of year, roughly what time sunset is?
You would guess, if you had to guess, this probably you're looking at like, it's still a good 4-ish hours away, probably, Brian. Maybe 5. I guess if it's about early afternoon, maybe more like 6, actually. You would guess maybe about like 7 p.m., something like that would be the likely sunset time. So you probably have another 5 or 6 hours of daylight.
I mean, we have a while, but I don't want to be lying in this grass when the sun sets.
No, I don't. I mean, this place is creepy enough in the day. I hate to think what it's like at night.
Yeah.
It's quiet enough during the full day, so I don't. It gives me. I don't want it. I don't like it. But if we want to sit here for an hour or so, or a couple of hours, if we've still got that much time, then we can head to the Abbey.
Couple of hours is
How-
probably pushing our luck a bit.
Maybe an hour.
That's what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
I'm open to opinions.
If we hid in the grass and then at some undetermined point head towards the Abbey, how long would it take us if we started off in the section in front of where I am? How long would it take us to get
Good
to the
shout.
Abbey?
If you were crawling or like moving slowly, or if you were walking?
If you were walking.
Oh, I mean, a couple of minutes. It would not take long to get there if you were just walking there.
It wouldn't be like this bit of land would take you 4 hours to
No,
traverse
no,
or
no, no,
something
no,
like that.
no.
No, okay, cool. So if we
5
stay,
mile squares.
Yeah, I
Those
think if
dunes
we,
were deceptively big.
yeah, they were huge. I'm really on edge about the distance now. I'm not gonna lie. I think the plan is if we sort of stay in as much cover as we can in this square for about an hour or so, and then make our way to the Abbey, we'll still get to the Abbey in plenty of daylight.
Yeah, especially since I think we saw a bit of movement at the Abbey before. Maybe
Yeah.
just keeping an eye on it for an hour
Yeah.
will
Just so we know we're not walking into something unknown, basically.
it's a trap.
Sorry, I know
Yeah.
that's too loud. I just realized that I had my volume all the way down. This is why I was pinning the sound effects and I couldn't get anything. Sorry, apologies. Okay. Great.
At least it's not tavern music.
I was gonna say, can anyone hear tavern music?
yeah.
I was trying to sleep last night and I had Settlers 2 music on a loop in my head. My brain's doing it to myself now.
You caused that one yourself. You've only got yourself to blame.
That's true. I'll
trying to
take
sleep.
the hit on the other thing, but yeah. So
Waves looks a little bit impatient and gestures towards themselves and gestures towards the Abbey and makes like a hiding movement.
You want to hide closer.
You want to
I
sneak?
make a carefully moving forward movement and give you a thumbs up.
You want to
You
go
want to-
forward while we wait.
I nod.
But you might end up in the situation we were trying to avoid then.
That's a terrible idea. We don't want you to be like that. I don't want no.
Why did we
Believe me,
just
I
take
want to
on-
see what these absolute half jobs did to this place as much as anybody else, but I'd like to make sure nothing's going to try and eat me while I'm having a look.
Why don't we
I
just
point
watch for a
toward-
little while and then sneak?
Is there a cloud on the sky, Arv?
the whole area is kind of gray and overcast right now. So not any like
Okay.
distinctive clouds, just the whole area.
I make a movement toward. I point towards the clouds and make a movement as if pulling them down and then moving forward.
Oh, the fog.
Ah,
Apparently, I now speak Kenku. Who knew? Your fog trick. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really
hey,
good
folks
idea.
might just pass that off as a bit of sea mist on an island like
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. But yeah, if we stake it out for a little bit, you do your fog thing, and then we sneak in. And Silvo's looking at waves now to see if there's a nod or a more Kenku charades.
I make another movement to like pulling clouds down and then show 10 with my hands and make a noise like a clock, like
10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it lasts for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I reckon we stake it out a bit. When we are within 10 minutes of the Abbey, we fog it up and then we can sneak in.
Sounds like a
Silvo
plan
looks
to
back
me.
over to Waves.
Wave sits down, still looks a little bit impatient, like twitching, and yeah.
All right. Excellent idea. I like it.
Sorry, the bird is twitching. That amuses me.
Okay, is that your plan? So you're going
I
to...
think so, yes.
Okay.
We're going to go here. We're going to wait for about an hour, see if anything moves in the Abbey, and then we're going to sneak in. But when we're about 10 minutes away on foot, we're going to fog up the sort of area near us and the Abbey so we can sneak in unnoticed.
Okay.
The sneakiest, remember.
No, that's true. That's why the fog will help. Well, actually, can I ask a quick question? In what state of disrepair is the Abbey? Because if we're talking like
Very
it's literally,
disrepaired.
like, but is it still like a noticeable Abbey, or is it literally like
Not
burned down
really.
to the foundations?
It's pretty much that. It's pretty much destroyed.
So it's
Right.
actually raised to the ground.
Pretty much. I mean, there are some little, like parts of the walls that are still like standing a little bit, maybe 7-8 feet high, possibly. But
Okay, yeah, we
most of the
didn't see
structure has been
people, did
destroyed.
we?
I bet you a silver there's a cellar or something.
I was going to say we didn't see off character. We didn't see people. We saw something moving, which could have been anything. But if we'd have seen people, Silver would have surmised there's probably a cellar or a basement or something like that. But he doesn't know that.
Okay. Green says, "That is not a good building to live in. If somebody lives in a broken, dirty building like that, they must be very, very desperate."
I agree.
Yeah, they might be.
I don't think
Maybe
they-
we can.
Maybe they don't live there. Maybe they're looting. Before we go in, maybe when Waves brings down the fog, maybe Morthwill can go along as well to make sure we're not going to fall to our death as soon as we enter the Abbey. Is
Yeah,
it going
because
to
if
be?
we hear Morthwill fall and cry, then we'll know to stop moving, right?
Excuse me.
It's an early hole detection device. Just send the dwarf in first.
Oh, I can't-
Ah! Right, wrong way.
Everyone
Right,
stop.
Silvo, you go in front. Go that way. Ah!
What are you, my community on Saturdays?
Cool,
I'm
that
not
sounds like a
sneaky,
plan.
but yes, probably need some eye going over it. I probably can determine some things about it, I hope. Beyond the fact that it's a bunch of crap.
What do your fancy goggles do? Do they see through fog?
Hang on.
Because you've got goggles of super duper dwarven sight, haven't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the ones you
This
found
is,
on the
this
ceiling.
is literally how Silvo would describe them as well.
My only note says it gives me 120 feet of dark vision. It doesn't say anything about like
Right.
seeing through magical
Oh, okay.
obstructions or even regular obstructions, to be fair.
Silvo turns to Waves and says, "Can we see through the fog?" There's a sound effect for this.
No.
Yeah, it's just no.
Fog, yes, on like page 35
Alright.
of the soundboard list.
Okay, I'm just gonna read this because it's okay. I'm gonna mime this, I guess. I draw like a cloud on the floor, and I step inside it and pull Silver inside, and then make like a looking motion and make like. And then I step outside of my fog and make it look like looking inside, like.
Got it. We can see through. We can see if we're inside the fog, but people can't see inside the fog from outside. I'm
And now you'll
multilingual.
be able to say that next time.
Oh my god! Yeah, exactly.
So and Green is carefully trying to clean our hiding spot while we're there.
I did
Because, like,
think
if-
that. It's like a little brush, just like sweep it, like a little Zen
Yeah.
garden, just sweeping any sand and debris out.
And
little
maybe like a
tiny
nice
peak.
little rock to sit on.
Polished.
Yeah.
It's the cleanest rock on the entire island.
You
now.
turn around, the whole thing has been made into a thing with like one of the, the click, 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 rock devices and like a little
great.
brush of the sand and like
Perfect. Perfect.
And Waves is staring intently towards the abbey at the whole time.
I would like a
Yeah.
perception check from you, Waves.
Oh, okay.
Just waves. I thought we were all sort of keeping.
If you
a
all
lookout.
doing that, that's fine. Yes, if
we
you're all
are.
doing that,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
that's the plan.
Definitely all having
Okay,
a
let's
look.
see.
Well, I am.
Probably
How
at
is it
different
working
times
today?
during the hour, but yeah, we'll collect.
Waves is really into
Waves
watching
like,
the Abbey.
Silvo,
Silver also agrees. This is a very badly made abbey.
terribly
This
made
place
up.
looks rubbish. How is stone? How is stone this flammable? I don't understand.
None of you see movement from the abbey again. Whatever you saw from a distance is not visible when you're closer to it. You do not see movement
Green.
in the abbey.
I'll quickly roll green because otherwise I'll feel bad. How is it? No, not like that was +6, so green also 23.
23, yeah. You don't see anything moving.
Well, I'm convinced it's abandoned. Let's go.
All right. Guess it's time to fog us up.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So we're walking towards the abbey. When we're about 10-ish minutes out,
Okay.
then I assume a magical fog is going to appear.
Okay.
I'll take a deep breath, open my arms for a moment, and then like, and the fog just appears around us.
Ooh, nice.
It's 20 feet in all directions,
Okay.
and it moves with me, remaining center on me, and makes everything inside the fog, seen from the outside, heavily obscured. Everybody who stays close with me in the fog only treats the fog as lightly obscuring.
I see. Okay. So this carefully, purposefully directional fog of 20 feet by 20 feet moves across the flat land of grass towards this abbey.
This,
Yes.
Totally divorced from
anomalous-
any other cloud or Yeah, no, I know.
Anomalous sea mist, I think you'll find we're calling it.
No, I was just thinking of a Monty Python and a Trojan rabbit. But anyway,
Just this anomalous cloud just
yeah.
bouncing along the horizon.
no, it actually works well because there is so much gray around the area to begin with that you make your way in. And regardless of whether it's noticeable or not, when you get pretty much right on top of the alley or right near it, you can now see for sure that indeed it has been sort of burned down almost to the foundations. There's a great square of stones filled with burned and blackened rubble. But as I mentioned, someone clearly has been sorting through the debris, and you can now see that there are one pile has these like cooking utensils and crushed pots and pans and mangled kettles and other kinds of metal objects and so on. That's in one pile. And then another pile has broken crockery and platters and plates and porcelain and pottery and all that kind of stuff that's in another. And there is, as I mentioned, a great deal of wood. You asked before, Brian, if this wood was charred, and it absolutely is. It's one large mound of badly burned scraps of wood. And it's a lot of wood, but it seems all largely useless. Like Morthwheel, as you're looking at this, you realize that like there's no way you could make a boat out of it, right? Like you can't. There is no such thing as Scotch taping a bunch of wood together to try to make one boat. It's
Hold
just
my
a bunch.
ale.
Yeah, well, if they had you, maybe, but there just was no. It's just a bunch of sort of loose scraps of wood, but it's obviously been sorted into a large mound. And in the center of the ruins, you see an opening. And there is, as you move nearer, a stone staircase that is leading down into darkness. You don't see anything.
Me a
in there,
silver.
so
Hey, I didn't take you up on that bet.
Morthwhil would like to examine the stonework to see if we can determine when this fire might have happened.
sure. Let me have you make. This is not a super difficult check. Let me have you make. For you, this is like an well,
I've got stone cunning, if that helps.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yes. Okay. So, yes, go ahead and make this check at advantage. Let's make it an investigation check, as you see.
That's advantage. Very nice. Well,
Well, but fortunately, Morthwhil, not too difficult to tell. This is fairly recent, and in fact corresponds with when the lighthouse keeper says the attack happened when the pirates tried to burn down the abbey. Seems very much that it was that way.
It was successful.
Also, the fire, excuse me, the fire was clearly very fierce. And if you had to guess, I don't want to get too CSI here, but if you had to guess, was very clearly deliberately set to cause the most damage. Like it was like some of the scorch marks are so intense, and in fact, a lot of even if you're looking at just the pile of wood, a lot of the wood is basically just like flinders, and like little scraps and things like that. Whatever was burning here was burning very hot as well. You, however, do not see. I thought I would note you were looking at the rubble. You do not see any bones or bodies or things of that nature. Piles of stuff, yes, but not anything that seems to be related directly to stuff involving people.
Can I have a look around the pile of wood and the pile of pots and pans
Sure.
to see if there are any footprints or anything in the soot and dust that I can determine maybe the the size and build of whoever's been there since it.
Sure. Let me have you make an investigation check as you're doing that, looking around there. And there is a lot of dust and debris and stuff like that on the ground.
18.
Yeah, you definitely see tracks that are sort of walking back and forth. If you had to guess, Brian, roughly humanoid sized and definitely boots. Not bare feet, but some kind of, or shoes maybe, but boots or shoes, some kind of foot covering. Definitely roughly humanoid sized. And you see it in particular coming the most, going to and from the hole, the staircase leading down, mostly to the pile of wood.
Can I tell by the the size of and shape of the boot prints whether it's one person or whether there are lots of people walking?
Looks like multiples, although you can't tell it's too obscured to see like if they're different treads. But there are a lot of tracks here and a lot of footsteps. So your guess would be that it's a few people probably.
They seem to have been bringing the wood up from down there. Why would they use this? What's this wood for? Unless they're clearing a path.
Well, they're trapped on the island. They thought they could try and make a raft.
Well, it doesn't look like it would float very far.
What
I mean,
about
if they're bringing it
could it be
all
used
the
for
way up
firewood?
here, maybe they're clearing a path to what they're really after down these steps. I can't imagine they're going to all this work for some pots and pans.
Could this be like a makeshift campsite?
Waves nods in agreement and makes like a grand gesture towards the bare, sandy, unwooded island.
Yeah, because you've got a pretty decent view from here. Like, if you wanted to, and there's cliffs. Like I had a look earlier. There's cliffs all around the other side of the island. So, if there's only one spot to get on the island from the south, anyone who's gonna come up to the abbey has got to come up this way. So, if you're standing watch here, you're going to be here for a long time. You're going to need kitchen appliances. You're going to need wood. It could just be a lookout.
You're looking for a holiday home. I'm not sure that this is somewhere that I would choose.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a holiday home. I think maybe they're stuck here. Whoever's here.
I don't
If
think they
there's
were
more than one
expecting
person.
anyone.
Yeah, if there's more than one person, or there's a group of them, or something like that, then someone's got to stand watch just in case more pirates come, or if it is the pirates, undead start bimbling up from the sand dunes or whatever. You
Do
guys
you
have
still think that you trying
guys,
to use this as a stronghold?
yeah, you guys sleep in very safe conditions. I've noticed. Like when you have to sleep in very unsafe conditions, you normally leave a lookout or you leave one eye open. Like there's definitely this feels like this is a lookout sleeping spot or a lookout spot where someone would sit here for many hours on end, just making sure that the rest of the whoever's downstairs is all right and has an early warning.
If that was the case, then why aren't they here looking out?
Probably they saw the band of adventurers climbing up the hill and has gone to warn people.
Or
I mean,
for
we're not the quietest people in the world. We have tried to be quiet, but depending on how well they look out, if they've already seen us, they've already seen us.
Waves points towards their rapier and then repeats what we said in front of the door of the lizard people. Let's try diplomacy and knocking.
I actually think that's a really good idea, because if there's people here and they are genuinely trapped, we could probably help them. I mean, if they're trapped like the people on the ship were trapped and they went crazy and tried to kill us and eat us, that's a slightly different story. But, like,
Green says, they will either be pirates or cultists.
they might be.
Could be zombies in the basement again.
It could also be undead as well. But I don't know. My knowledge of the undead is quite limited, and Silver sort of kicks a bit of the wood, a bit of the charred wood. He's like, I don't know many undead that could start campfires or need them.
Some cultists sacrifice people and eat them.
That is a very good point, and that's why you are going to go behind the people with the swords.
Yes.
Don't worry, Green. And Silver sort of puts a leisurely arm round Green. Don't worry, mate. We'll make sure no one eats you.
No one's going to eat you on my watch, Green.
Also looks very dusty and dirty down the steps.
Well, how about you bring up the rear and you can take care of that?
Okay.
I take it we're going in.
Tell me a bit about this staircase.
So the staircase down is about good size, probably about 7-8 feet wide. It is in relatively good shape. It is made of, as I said, stone that is descending into darkness, and you think you can just see from the light, Silvo, that down about maybe 20 feet down the staircase, there looks like there's a door at the bottom of the staircase. You think closed at the moment, obviously.
Is there any sound coming from down there or any light showing from under the door?
Perception. Although I need to know where, if you're like coming right up on top of, like, where are you when you're asking this, Brian? Are you like?
I'm still at the top of the stairs.
Okay. Yeah. So perception, I'd say.
10.
You don't think so. You don't see any obvious light down there, although there might be some flickering light on the other side of the room. You're not 100% sure. Not right next to the door, though.
So Silvo's going to, in an uncharacteristically confident move, kind of motion one hand to the rest of the group and go, so wait here a second, but if this goes bad, come running. And
Why
tries
are we
to
pushing you down? Good idea.
Tries to sneak down the stairs.
I would like a stealth check, please.
Cool. That's an 8. I have a 5 bonus on stealth as well. I have not rolled one good stealth roll.
So I imagine that you're like walking down and you're like, all right, okay, I'm almost there. I'm getting there, right? Like you did like the very loud stage whisper, you know. It's just
I
like-
imagined it was like he ran down the stairs, but all the like gold and jewels in his pockets just
yeah, like,
jingling.
jingle. Yeah. Yes. So when you get to the bottom, you can see there is a charred wooden door, which is nonetheless closed despite being charred. And you have made a bit of noise on the way down.
Fair enough. I'm going to press my ear to the door and see if I can hear anything on the other side.
Perception, please.
Ooh, that's persuasion. I'm not going to persuade the door to tell me its secrets.
You're not a bard.
Excellent. That's a 5. This is going swimmingly.
Okay. So, yeah, as you put your... Let me just make sure I update that. Okay. You do hear the sound, and it may be why nothing has sort of come running out at you. You do hear the sound of something from behind the door, but you can't hear it well. There are muffled noises coming from behind the door that you can't really make out very well, Silvo.
Okay. Silvo's going to look up at the top of the stairs. Did Brian say they were at the top of the stairs?
Did Brian say what, sorry?
That you were at the top of the stairs?
Yes.
Okay. So Silvo, in a slightly dramatic pose, he's taking a point from Waves here because Wave did a very dramatic pose
Right.
when they did a bit of magic. He's going to point his arm out at Brian, and in your head, Brian, you hear, I hear voices behind the door, but I think it's probably safe.
Okay. I'm going to I'm gonna sneak down the stairs
Okay.
um
I'll need a
to
stealth check for
catch
that.
up with
Oh yeah, sorry.
Silvo.
Sorry, yeah. So just a quick point from Parajated chat. The sentence was actually, they didn't hear me, and I think it's completely safe.
No, I'm still sneaking down the stairs.
That's fair.
I'm sneaking down the stairs, but obviously because Silvo said it's safe, I'm completely believe him. I'm still looking to see if I can see, now I'm a bit closer, whether I can see any light under the door.
Okay. Yeah, so perception check, please, as you arrive, just looking for the light at the bottom.
Do you want me
Quick
to
question,
stealth
Brad.
as well?
Are you stealthing?
Oh,
as
sorry,
well?
I beg your pardon. Yes, stealth first and then perception, yes.
If this goes really well,
16.
Okay, yeah, maybe Silvo was slightly startled as suddenly appearing.
I was gonna say you jump
next to
scare
him. It's just
Silvo.
like, yeah. And Silvo's like, ah! Like loudly in the room.
I suddenly appear behind you and put a hand on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna look to see if there's any light under the door.
Okay.
11.
Yeah, that is enough to note. Just because you're just looking, not listening right now. Just looking, you do think there may be a little bit of flickering light coming from below the door, although you can't get any real details about it.
Okay, I'm going to. Can I, like, if I concentrate really hard and squint, can I try and send a message back to Silvo? Because I don't quite understand how it works.
I don't think that's how that works. But
I'm going to try anyway.
I actually think it is. Give me a second. Telepathic speech. You form a telepathic connection between your mind and the mind of another. As a bonus action, you and another creature can speak telepathically with one another while the two of you are within a number of miles of each other equal to your class modifier. So yeah, it can just only be one person at a time.
Okay. So because I had this image of otherwise like Brian, like, scrunching up or like, oh, like, because you see Brian in obvious pain.
Yeah. Brian looks like you're trying to really quietly squeeze out a fart.
In fact, she's concentrating so hard that she does actually squeeze out a very.
There's a vein that just has never been this tense in the side of your head.
And that's what alerted the guards.
Exactly. So, all right, you're able to, so then in that case, it sounds like you can do it.
In which case I'm going to, because again, I don't know how it works. I'm like squinting and like farting and I'm shouting in my head. I think I can see light under the door. I think there's someone in there.
Silver's just like, oh. He also looks really excited because he puts his hand on Brian's shoulder. He's like, that's never worked before.
I'm just going to give him finger guns.
But you're really loud. You don't need to shout. I'm right next. You're in my head. Normal inside voice.
This is so cool.
Oh.
And a small
Waves is
fart.
standing at the top of the stairs, looking down to see what's happening.
As Brian is like, and like Silva's like,
Mothwell sees finger guns and just draws his arcane fire
it's
on.
like,
Yeah, kind of. And Waves like maybe they are under a spell, What's happening
something's
there?
wrong. Take them all out.
Yeah.
Oh man,
They've been entranced by some magic. Kill them now.
shouting like my dad on the phone. Oh my god, that's so true. I asked you. Oh god.
Hello? Yes, I'm in a dungeon.
I'm talking to you in your head. Okay. So
Silver's just on the floor.
yeah.
Nosebleed, ear bleed.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so you are okay. So what you're actually doing is you saw the light, so to speak, and now managed to communicate that to Silvo, thus by breaking his brain in the process. What now? And I guess Waves and Morthwell, you're still and Green are still looking down the stairs at these people having conniptions at the bottom of the stairs.
Yes.
I got my gun out, wondering why the hell I was just gestured to pull the gun out.
Can I ask?
I'm just staring down there, waiting for something to happen because I'm sure something will happen.
Usually there's more screaming when they've buggered something up, so
Can I ask, Arv, when we first started this campaign and Brian first met Waves,
Right.
we started trying to do some kind of like sign language communication to try and get some dialogue
I remember
or
that.
some kind of understanding. Is there enough of that for me to communicate from a distance with Waves?
I
that
think that
can
depends on
see
what you're doing.
light under the door?
I loved, as somebody said earlier, Kenku charades. I think that was like. I mean, I would love to see it. How are you trying to communicate to the top of the stairs? I think I see light.
Okay. It's like through the medium of interpretive dance, I'm going to move Silvo slightly to the left, just so I don't hit him when I'm with my flailing arms, and then I'm going to like I'm going to go caw caw to like just not verbally to indicate to Waves, and then
Wave
I'm gonna
stares
go-
at you from the top of the stairs.
Morthwell just leaves her and whispers, "Is she being rude?"
and then I'm going to go. That's...
You want me to blow up the door?
Okay.
You just see Silver just starting to dance a little bit next to it. He's like, what are we doing?
Okay. What Waves got is like
gonna
Waves
shout at
there
Silver again,
under the door. Open the door.
My God.
So what Waves got was like Waves. Look there under the door. Open the door. Explosion.
So,
Okay.
Silver just puts a hand on Brian's shoulder. He's like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. He looks up at Waves
Waves still is looking down.
and now goes, we were so stealthy they have no idea we're here, but we think there's light under the door and I'm pretty sure I can hear voices. But obviously I say that in your head, into your head.
Can
Arf,
you
does
have
that-
a group chat like that, Silvo?
No,
Like-
so I've severed
Okay.
the connection with Brian.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm speaking to that because definitely not group chat. It's not read by all.
Yes.
I have to do it one person at a time.
Brian
Arf,
not
does this sound
realise
as something
by the
I've-
way. So
Okay,
I'm still
Arf-
shouting in my head at Silver.
Yes, Waves.
More
Arf,
fun.
does this sound as something I have heard?
Yes, you've heard me do this before.
Then sure, yes.
No. Okay, so I repeat towards Morthwell and Green in Silver's voice. We are very stealthy. They have no idea we're here, and somebody's on the other side of the door. And there's light under the door. Yes, that was that.
Just
Well,
Silver was just
Brian
like,
is still doing
God,
this down below.
God damn, I love that bird. That's such a useful companion.
Oh my God, it's literally the Flintstones phone.
Oh God, it is.
And I have to take a very brief tangent just to say I'm sorry, but this is reminding me over Christmas at some point we were playing this game where there's like this charades based thing, and the word that I got that I was trying to convey to my family was Eiffel Tower. So my wife is watching it. I'm like, you've all met me. I'm pretty tall. So I'm standing up. I put my feet slightly apart, and then I do this, like like an A shape, right? Like
And she
as if
says YMCA.
well, I know. I was thinking that. No, so I do this, and my wife has no idea what I'm saying. So then I'm like, all right, fine. 2 words, second word, and then I do the same thing again. Because in my head, I'm like, as long as I just do the second part, she'll totally get it. And my wife was like, if I didn't understand what you said the first time, how is it going to help that you tell me there's 2 words with it? I was like, but it's a tower.
You just made it twice as hard.
And I told a friend of mine, and he's like, Eiffel Tower. I'm like, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh my God, it was so funny. So my family now, like over the last month, every so often they'll be walking past each other in the kitchen, and the kid is like, my son is like to the tower. I'm like, yeah. Oh God, I'm sorry.
Everyone do the tower.
It's so funny. I beg your pardon. I was loving the charades image. So yes.
Okay.
Okay. So you've conveyed it.
I'm gonna quickly
Okay.
look back at Brian and just be like, "It's okay. Don't worry about it." So she stops trying to like strain herself.
Okay, Wave stealth is down the stairs now.
Okay. I'm making a public note that all of what we just did has to be clipped.
Oh yeah,
We're talking
100%.
about clips.
I've already got no.
100% up to clip. Okay.
There's like 5 clips in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was amazing. All right. So, all right. So you go down the stairs. You're also trying to stealth on your way down.
Yeah, I mean, apparently we've been very successful stealthily so far because Silver
Clearly.
told me so,
No,
and I don't
obviously.
want to stop that success.
Yes.
So, of course, I'm stealthing down the stairs.
All right. Let's see that stealth
Much
check.
stealth. Very sneak.
There we go. Critical.
So how does that look? Is that you going down, but your sword behind you is like clink, 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 like as you go down
Why I
each
say
stair?
Well,
at the top of the stairs.
I've got like kind of like bird feet, and I just start like slipping, but I don't like fall on my ass, but I try to like keep going, like sliding down the stairs, and it gets like louder and louder the whole time while because I'm also like trying to get hold of the walls and like ripping stones off them inadvertently, who also fall down the stairs. But I keep standing. I'm like sliding down with with a couple of stones. Like, then I like stand in front of the door like this.
Okay.
Like my dog running on a hardwood
When
floor.
I suppose they could have thought it was falling stones. This is a shoddy place.
I would like you, Waves, to make a perception check for me, please.
Why? Okay, wait a minute. Come
Because you
again.
just fell down half the staircase. That's why.
Can I try and like catch Waves?
22.
22.
I nailed that one.
All right. So when you get down to the bottom loudly,
You're very aware. You just slid down a flight of stairs.
yes, you should have been able to, if you'll pardon the expression, wake the dead with how loud that all worked out. However, you soon recognize why it is that you didn't, because on the other side, you clearly hear, you don't understand why the others didn't, hear muffled voices that say something to the effect of, I told you to raise over there. No, I'm going to do that if I can. The truth is, you got something for it. Look, you said you had 5 of those, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a set now. Well, I was talking about a set. Whatever, just put in the ante. It sounds like a group of people gambling, Waves, if you had to guess, and they're doing it loudly, and that's why, presumably, they did not hear you.
Okay. Okay, I'm just not moving for a moment because everybody knows after it's been very, very loud, not moving for a moment makes it better. And then I point towards the door and take out my playing card set and point towards the door again. Like,
Now's not the time to play cards, Waves. When we get back to camp.
I offered you a silver bet that this would be here. No.
I look at everyone like, the fuck? Okay,
Peering over the edge of all of this.
I'm just like, Mothwell, do you mind? We're trying to be stealthy down here. And we're being
noticed.
We're being
I-
75% successful so far.
I very quietly repeat what I've heard from the other side of the door. Like, you gotta raise the ante and all of that. And point towards the door.
They're gambling. Got it. So there are people behind it, right? Diplomacy?
I mean, I'm not the most diplomatic.
That's all right. I can be very convincing sometimes.
Morthwell, you're still at the top of the stairs, right?
Well,
green.
considering that nothing happened after all of that, I might start coming down at this point.
I was wondering if you'd been setting up
What's
your
the worst
fire
I could
cannon
do?
beforehand. You're just like aiming it down, like.
yeah. Prime the explosives.
Yeah, yeah.
Crit fail acrobatics. The hand cannon goes off by accident.
Incinerates what's left of the stairs. Okay. So yes. So you if you're heading down the stairs, that's fine. You're all now at the bottom. Oh, and I might have actually let me
green-
see. I might have a map for this. Let
I
me see if
assume
I do.
green is sort of quite obviously cleaning the stairs as green
Okay,
comes down.
Green was told that that he can go last
Yes.
and clean the stairs. So he's
Good.
waiting for
Excellent.
Morthwell to move down and then going down and cleaning the stairs, of course.
I do
You
in
wouldn't,
fact have
you
a
wouldn't
map.
clean them
Because
and then have
we're-
me walk down afterwards. That
No,
would just
exactly.
be rude.
That would be
Because we're a completely normal group of adventurers, so that's how we do things.
Exactly.
I would just say, like, no, this isn't exactly a casino or, the back room of a tavern. Knocking on the door might not have the right effect. Maybe we should just kick it in and be like,
But to be
hi.
fair, we said that about the lizard stronghold, and that seemed to work out.
I point
Our
towards
funeral.
Silver and nod.
What was our cover story for the lizard folk? Did we say we were like traveling volcano insurance salespeople or something?
It was some kind of sales thing.
So it was,
Merchants.
We're merchants.
This is not a prime merchant location. How
It's
did we know
really
they were
not.
here to say, hello, would you
It's
like to buy
really
these ladles?
We have an excellent selection of pieces of wood we can sell you.
Which
Would you like to buy some
which you seem
some
to have
sand?
assembled.
Would you like to buy some sand?
It's so Skyrim. I'm going to steal it from you and then sell back your own parts to you.
Pretty much, yeah.
We're just selling these knockoff Crocagator handbags.
I have many iron daggers.
All right, and I have just moved all of your tokens down to the bottom of these stairs
excellent.
in this new map that you can see.
I will knock on the door.
Okay. So, and you have to, so actually, let me put, so, and then you folks can take over your own people. I just moved you up front just for that moment. And now you can take that over. So, I assume you have to, like, you're willing to pound on the door, because at least initially nobody hears you.
Yes, yeah.
And then what? Hey, you leave
Just a
someone
real-
out there.
Just while they're making noise, can I just have a look? Has anybody got any weapons drawn?
Yes.
Not me.
I'm going to have my scimitars out, but behind my back, so they're not in front of me.
No, I learned from diplomacy the last time. I'm not having weapons out.
So Silvo has already put his crossbow on his back, and he's just going to look at Morthwell. Morthwell, what are you carrying, weapon-wise?
My arcane firearm
Your arcane firearm.
and a shield.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. We'll let that one slide. You're an inventor.
Can I do
Okay.
one thing before you knock?
Yeah, you can for me. I'm not the one that can turn back time.
That was my question was directed at you. Can I
to
do
me.
something before Silvo
Depends
knocks?
on what it's a little ex post facto, but it depends on what it is. I'll allow it depending on what it is. Like, what are we talking about?
At some point, like obviously knowing that Silvo is about to knock, can I just have a look at the door to see if needs be, is it damaged enough that I think I might be able to kick it in if necessary?
Yes, you think you probably would be able to break it down because it's already kind of charred. So you suspect that you could, although you might need. You think the door will definitely be able to be forced. You don't know if you could kick it in for sure, but you think the door does not look like it's in great shape, and you probably could, at the very least, force it in, even if it's not kick it down.
It was kind of I can definitely break that down. It was more of a, if that's even a possibility, depending on how damaged the
Conceivably, you
door
think,
is.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Silvo, you are still though knocking on the door, as I understand it.
Yes.
Okay. So you hear now, because you're all listening very intently, you hear the sound of what sounds like wood scraping along stone. And then you hear something coming up, and you hear some kind of whispering. And then all at once, the door is thrown open. Standing in front of you, Silvo, is the torso of a man. And then you
Just
look...
the torso?
Well,
Oh,
you
right.
then look up.
Uh-oh.
This is a brute of a man. It is a very large human being, probably 6'8", muscles for days type of thing, right? And is looking down and says, "Oi!" And he has, you can see that he has got his, I believe it is a sword, but let me just double check. Spear. He has got his spear drawn. He's got a shield in one hand. His spear is like this. And behind him, you can see two others. One of them seems to be cloaked. One of them is in kind of a leather tunic type of thing. But they also look like they're in defensive positions. And this one looks down at you and says, "Right. You got exactly 5 seconds to explain what you're doing here before I run the lot of you through."
Okay. Give me 2 seconds.
That's too many seconds. 2,
Uh,
1, 6.
we are from We are
5.
from Saltmarsh, and we are here to help you with your potential undead problem, and also potentially help you get off this island.
And he sort of stares and says, "First, you came to help us with our problem."
Your undead problem, yes.
And he he sort of looks behind him at the others, sort of glances at the others, said, "And drop your weapons before we talk."
Well, certainly we can't drop all of our weapons, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to help you with your undead.
"You're not going to be help me if you become real dead. Drop your weapons." This guy, by the way, a couple notes about him. I mentioned that he's a brute, huge man. I should also mention that he has armor, right? This leather armor that he's wearing, which is scarred and pitted and maybe even burned. He has got his face is filthy and bearded, hair matted, and he you can see that it's clearly been a long time. Also, there's a smell. It's been a long time, clearly, since this person's been near a bath or indeed civilization, if you had to guess. This person looks like they've been out for a while. His eyes are a little wild, and but his muscles are rippling, tensing as he holds the spear.
So he is Green's nightmare.
Yeah.
Green
is all the way back, so
shaking.
maybe Green can't quite see enough, to know. Because...
I'm pretty sure Green is deeply disturbed.
Okay.
I will look at this man as close to in the eye as possible, craning my neck upwards, and I will go, "You seem like a chap who's done this before. Tell you what, how about I am not a man of war, I am a man of speaking and strategy and tactics. How about we both drop our weapons, and then we can have a nice civilized chat? I mean, look at you. If you want to break me in half, you don't need a spear to do that, right?" And I'd like to try and persuade him.
Sure. Disadvantage.
12.
He's like, "Well, how about I not drop my spear and break you in half anyway? Now drop
That would
your
be-
weapons." And he kind of, his eyes widen.
Yeah. That's not how diplomacy worked the last time.
What guarantee do we have that we will be safe if we drop our weapons?
And he says, "I can guarantee you won't be safe if you don't."
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
He kind of looks at you. Mrr.
I want to ask Arthur a question, not the.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Never mind. He doesn't say that.
Sorry, my fault. This character is obviously quite distinctive in his demeanor and size and such. In my tenure as a pirate, is this someone of this character someone that I would have heard of in pirating circles?
You don't think so, but I'll let you make a history check for me, I guess. Let's do it that way. Not off the top of your head, but let's see if you can summon to mind.
Absolutely not. I rolled a 5.
Except that you certainly know the type of a big, thuggish brute that prefers to, fight first and ask questions later. It is true that he has not yet stabbed you all to death or tried to. But it is the case, nonetheless, that he is still here and is clearly in this kind of threatening sort of way.
All right, then. How about this? We meet in the middle. What is it the pirates, what are they saying pirate in circles? Is it parlance, parlay, something
Parsley,
like
I think.
that? Parsley?
Parsley.
How about I come in with no weapons, you leave the rest out here, you don't like what I have to say, you break me in half, then you can have a good fight amongst yourselves.
So
You're like a man that enjoys a bit of a scrap. I'm not going to be much of a scrap for you.
So he stares at you and then he says, "What the rest of you gonna do while he does this?"
They'll just wait outside.
Don't ask me, sir. I'm just here as part of the repair crew.
So he kind of looks back and forth. All right then. Then come in slowly. Drop your weapon first.
Yep.
And
Takes
he,
his,
he backs up 5 feet.
crossbow
He
off.
has a spear, so he's still got reach.
No. Silver very slowly takes his crossbow off, puts it on the ground. He doesn't have a dagger on him. What he will do, he will slowly open his coat, just to show he's not carrying any weapons, either strapped to his back or anything like that. And then he will slowly walk in and shut the door behind him.
Okay. All right. So when you walk in, you are able to see a few other things, first of all. Beginning with, we've got this and this. And you can see now that you're in a pretty decent-sized room, actually. And I should say that this is, I slightly misspoke. These are not 5-foot squares. They're 10-foot squares. Everything is bigger
this place is
here.
huge.
Everything is bigger here, yeah. So this looks like a
Everything's bigger in the
combination, like dining hall and gambling den, if you had to guess, because you can actually see that there is a makeshift table made of burned planks supported at either end by upended barrels. And beneath the table, you can see there are several small kegs that serve as chairs, which have now been pushed back. And there are scraps of food strewn across the table and on the floor nearby. And I should point out that not only is the place filthy, so the minute Green sees this, I'm sure there's going to be a crisis of faith. But not only that, also these people themselves, now that you get a little better look at the others, are exhausted. Like they just look absolutely exhausted, and sort of like bone tired.
So I'm gonna. There's this sort of like slightly cocky jaunt that Silvo's gonna sort of embody, and he's gonna walk in sort of this direction, but always staying within range of the sort of burly man.
Okay.
So that the burly man knows that at any point he could stab him, but he wants to move towards these two.
Okay.
While he's moving,
Yeah.
he'll just be like, he'll be making sort of like passive comments like, well, it's not, the worst abode I've ever seen in my life. And it's definitely not the worst place I've spent any time in. It seems like you've got pretty good digs here. And he looks at the other two and he's like, hello, Silvo, how are you doing? Here to help you with your undead problem and potentially get you off this island. God, you look tired. How long have you been here? He probably pointing to this one when I say that.
As you're doing that, 2 questions. First of all, the rest of the party, are you like listening in at the door? Like, what is the rest of the party doing while Silvo is involved in this high-risk endeavor?
I'm listening in and looking as non-threatening as possible whilst being prepared to jump in at a moment's notice.
Because he said he closed the door behind him. This is why I'm asking.
All right, I'm listening through the door, getting ready to bust through the door at a
Gotcha.
moment's notice.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll open the
we hear
door again
Silvo
if nobody
shriek.
stops me. I'll carefully open the door again if nobody stops me. Like very, very quietly opening the door.
Okay. Make a stealth check for me. Actually, it's not a difficult
Yeah.
one because they're focused on something else. But make a stealth check for me quickly, Waves.
Sorry, just making sure I'm clicking on the right thing. 11.
That's enough. Yeah. So you're able to open it. It does creak a little bit, but you notice that they are occupied looking at Silvo. As
But you can now hear the conversation, right?
yes,
I can shoot through this little opening if necessary.
Okay. There's a voice in your head, Waves, that says, bear with me. If I need you, I'll shout.
There is no answer.
That's fine. Well, to be fair, I didn't expect there to be one.
Whoa.
You suddenly have like your own voice and personality, but only through telepathic speech. Yeah, you, mate. How long have you been here? You look well tired.
and they say, so there's sort of a pause, and then he says, "It's been a while, but we're not supposed to." And at that point, you hear, "What's the meaning of this disruption?" And appearing from this door, you see a man step through, Silvo. It is a man who is wearing, basically, a robe and he has around him, he's got a robe which is kind of tattered and frayed and charred and burned and all that. And he's also wearing a golden medallion around his neck, you notice. He also looks tired, but he does not look nearly as, sort of like beaten up as the others do. And when he comes in to the one, he says, what's the meaning of this? Who is this? Who are you? And this guy sort of like looks around and he says, "Oi, just knock at the door, Osmandius. I thought was going to have someone come get you or take them out. I don't trust them. There's 4 more of them on the other side."
As I'm just walking past these 2 other people, the guy who I said, "You look really tired, mate," and he said, "Yeah, it's been a while, but we're not supposed to." And then the gold medallion man came in. I'm going to walk past these 2 again, staying within reach of Captain Spear. But as I walk past this guy, I'm just going to go, "Yeah, you do. You look hungry as well." Yeah, and I pass him a bit of jerky that's in my coat.
Oh, okay. I literally thought you were doing some check because I heard the sound as you were moving by him.
So
And I thought you were going to, and meanwhile I shiv him as I go by.
It's it's one of those sort of like very almost sleight of hand moments where he just like chucks a bit of jerky at him before the guy realizes what he's caught. Silver's like, "Yeah, eat that, you'll feel a little bit better," and he realizes he's actually holding food.
So he kind of looks down and looks up at you and looks down at the food, and he seems like very confused, but does not say or do anything otherwise. So the man that was referred to as Ozymandias comes farther down and says, "All right, then explain yourself. What are you doing here? No one is supposed to be on this island."
I'm going to step to this point and I'm going to say, "You look very important. That's very nice." Point to the gold medallion. "Is it real?" Anyway, my name's Silvo, and me and my compatriots here have travelled from the shores of Saltmarsh to help you with your potential undead problem and also offer any aid and assistance that you might need getting off this island.
So he kind of looks at you and he says, "What companions where?"
I have 4 friends just outside.
And as you look over, you see the door is now open and like there's a slight beak peeking out of one of the sides.
2 or 3 feathers.
Yeah, no. I didn't want to be like, "Wow," like that. But yes. So he sort of like stares at you and says, "So, what exactly is that supposed to mean? Help us with our undead problem. Why would you assume there was an undead problem?"
Well, we've heard that there is some undead potentially coming from this area and is potentially affecting other parts of the coast. And also, this could have something to do with a larger issue at hand. We have a feeling that this is a piece in a puzzle that we don't quite understand yet. I'm hoping that without the need for bloodshed, we can try and put some of these pieces together, maybe work something out for each other.
And he sort of pauses, and at that moment the door here opens, and a well-armored man, medium height, steps out and sort of looks and has his sword drawn, and Ozymandias does this sort of like, kind of like holds up his hand, and the guy sort of resheathes his sword but continues to look at you. Simultaneous to that, two more appear from, let's see.
As they are appearing, presumably they have their swords drawn but sheath them when the medallion man, Ozymandias, sort of motions to them. As I see them and they come out and they start sheathing their swords, I'll just be like, "Oh, please, I've no stomach for violence. And please, have you looked at me?" He sort of opens his coat a bit. He's like, "I'm a greasy street rat from the streets of Saltmarsh, employed purely for my diplomacy skills. And also, I haven't stepped out of the range of Big Boy's spear. So at any point, this conversation could end quite abruptly. I assure you, I am no physical threat."
And the big brute behind you says, "Oh, he talks too much, boss. Let's just be done with him. And
I do that has been said before.
We didn't agree on a go word, did we?
And he says,
no.
and the big one says, "Shut up, you." And Ozymandias says, all right. Take your hands from your weapons, Ogmund. We ought to find out what these things are before we kill everything that moves. All right, first things first. Bring your people out here and let's talk to this group. I don't like having people hidden behind doors any more than you would.
Oh, that's very fair enough. Now, my people do have
At which point, by
weapons
the
on
way,
them.
another person shows up here, and one person shows up here, and one more person shows up here. Now, I do want to just quickly point out, and then I'll let you say what you were going to say.
Yeah.
This one walking out looks different,
This
Silvo. This one right there, yes.
Yep. Cool.
And the reason is that you recognize something about them. This looks like someone with elvish or half-elvish features, and is not dressed like the others are. He does have armor, but it's much lighter. And as he comes out, he has got this sort of bemused smile on his face. All of these people do look tired and weary, and like all that continues to be the same, but he doesn't have quite the same kind of, I don't know, outlook as some of them might seem to in other contexts. So I do just want to mention that.
Two things Silva was going to say, and he's speaking not really fast, but like he's constantly, there's like constant dialogue sort of coming from him, if that makes sense. He's trying to like fill air so there's no awkward silences, and basically Spearboy doesn't stick him in the liver. So as the I've forgotten his name now, Ozymandias says, bring your people in, Silva's going to say, now, one thing I would like to say, I am no flavour for a fight. However, some of my compatriots do have weapons on them, but they will probably keep them sheathed. I think we can have a nice conversation. And to be honest with you, and he looks around, there's far more of you than there are of us, so I don't think we'd want to start a fight any more than you would. As the elf comes in, Silvo clocks him and sort of goes, oh, hello, and sort of brushes his hair behind his ear and goes, nice to see you. Don't go, if you ever visit Saltmarsh, don't go over the bridge, it'll turn your stomach. Shall I ask him in?
And Ozymandias says, yes, you should do that. As you're starting to go towards the door, actually, I'll wait on this. You notice that this person here, this guy right here, has what you might describe as a lean and hungry look. He looks very nervous and sort of agitated, and looks even more tired and exhausted than the others, if that's even possible. But otherwise doesn't make any other movements. But now you see that there are indeed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, counting the brute, of them. So as you go towards the door, to open the door, they all have sort of taken up sort of positions almost, although it's not clear that there's any sort of intentional thing doing that. So I'm going to grab some food that was left for me at the bottom of my office stairs whilst you talk about what you're all going to say when you open the door.
Okay, so I was going to send a quick sort of psychic message to either Waves or Brine to say diplomacy is working. So far, diplomacy is working. And as I open the door, I'm going to be like, maybe sheathe your swords, Brian. And I don't know if that Eldritch Cannon can go away.
I know I don't have one out.
Thanks.
You don't have one out? Okay, cool.
Yeah, got my arcane firearm, but that literally looks like a wand attached to a handle. It doesn't look like anything.
Yeah, that's fine. Is that like in a holster as well?
Not right now.
Okay, but it's just in your hand.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
This is the first prototype. It'll probably get fancier as I go.
Yeah, fair.
Maybe it will turn into a big rifle and you can have it like a walking stick.
Oh, that would be cool.
Maybe. We'll have to get in a fight to find out.
Quick telepathic message to Waves, because I think Waves is probably the person that if the door suddenly opens may barrel through rapier or swinging.
Yes.
I'm just going to say, so far diplomacy is working. I'm opening the door. And I
relay that to the others. So far diplomacy is working. I'm opening the door.
Excellent.
I'm going to put my scimitars away, and then I'm going to do the whole like crick in my neck thing and like limber it up.
Okay.
I'm going to open the door and I go, shall we find a spot and we can have a conversation with these fine individuals?
And as the door opens and they take into account this one referred to as Ogmund. Ozymandias is here. This is the leader, and Ogmund is the brute guy.
Yeah.
So he will give way to sort of give a little bit of room, and as he does that, you can see everyone else sort of looking at you warily, except for this guy over here who says, "Did you come from outside? Did you come from outside the island? We need help. If you could, we really would. It would be great if you could just. I really would appreciate it if you could go." And Ozymandias says, "Shut up, Odium. I'm in charge here." And Odium sort of, but they're from outside. I said, be silent. And Odium is looking at the obvious, just sort of grumbling to himself. Everyone else is quiet in the ways that I've described. And Ozymandias sort of takes a few steps down here and then says, "Very well. It seems like you've all come to speak to us. Perhaps we should go somewhere more comfortable then."
Oh, that sounds delightful. Thank you.
And
will you be joining us, Ogmund? And it's sort of I very gently lean against Ogmund. I'm like, I've just been so used to standing so close to you all of a sudden.
He growls at you.
He has that effect on people.
No? Well, shame. I will miss the crick in my neck looking you in the eye.
Green is trying to not touch anything while at the same time secretly trying to clean things.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have a look around the room, like subtly, obviously not like examining every corner.
Ooh, what's in this? Ooh, what's in this?
Excuse me, I'm just going to look at everything, yeah.
Yeah, from my own vantage point here, I'm not going to actually walk around the room, but just to see how much fire damage is down here, and whether it looks like the starting point started from outside of this room. If there's like a backdraft, like, do you get what I mean?
Yes, but
it
doesn't look like it, Brian. If you had to guess, the final backstop, if you will, or fire stop, was probably the door that you just came through. If you had to, because you don't see you see them as like a lot of their clothing and stuff is burned and charred, but you don't see, and there's some like, there's several like burned planks and stuff like that, as I mentioned, that have been, but you don't see anything else in this room specifically that's burned. That is to say, not the walls or the floor or anything like that. They might have come and hid here, but it definitely does not look like there was fire down here in the cellar. The other thing is that as Ozymandias turns and he says, "All right, you three come with me," and he indicates three people. So I'm going to, and he brings you into, if you follow him, he brings you into this room. Now, Ozymandias comes in here. We get this one, and then, now this is assuming you're following, like you're going along, so I don't want to just place them before I know that's what you're doing. But it sounds like if you are following them the way that at least Silvo suggested, then you would be going into, they seem to be leading you into this room.
Do you mean three of us or three of them?
No, three of them.
Okay, so all of us and three of them in that room.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Does the room have like visible bars or anything? Like they're leading us into a prison?
Me and Brian just collide with each other, trying to lead on the same spot.
Exactly. It looks like a garbage disposal, and then shut down all the detention level. Okay. There are no, it does not look like that. Although I have to say, probably at this point, I imagine that Green is just like in continual shock because everything here is filthy. Like the whole room stinks of sour food, rooms in general. In here, and assuming Green goes in there as well, Morthwill, I'm only moving you just for a second just to move my guy in there because they clearly have taken up positions and they've moved you basically, or they want to move you to the center of this room. And it's Ozymandias and two of the sort of soldier-looking types and Ogmund, the brute guy. And you can see in this room that there are 3 crude pallets, like kind of bedroll type things, lying on the floor. And there's a large iron kettle right near where you're standing, actually, Silvo. In the northeast corner, so actually I should move this guy forward just a little bit, is a jumbled pile of broken lumber. And so they are all sort of positioned around you. And Osmandius says, very well, once they're in. And you notice, by the way, that once you enter, whether it's green, I don't know if it's green comes last, or is it waves that's coming last into the room?
Green comes last.
We, just as you come in, someone or something closes the door behind you.
Closes or closes and locks it?
Unclear. You think maybe just closes.
Could I know clearer if I rolled a perception check if I'm listening for it?
Sure. It's going to be disadvantage, though. This is a tough check.
Okay. Bear with me 2 seconds. Boop. Disadvantage, yeah?
Yeah.
19.
No, look at that. I could have a crit hit, or I could have this. You don't believe it was locked, Silvo. No.
Okay.
It was just closed. And so when you arrive, and everyone is there, Osmandius says, very well. So you said you're here to help us with our undead problem. First of all, how did you find out about this undead problem? This is a rather remote island by the standards of the people around the Azure Sea. How exactly did you hear about us and our pleasant little villa?
What was the name of the guy who told us about the Isle? Not Leon,
Well,
it
you talk
was,
about if you mean the lighthouse keeper, you mean Major Ursa would be the guy.
Major
who did that,
Ursa,
if it was
that
that
was it.
guy.
I was like, wow. Interestingly enough, we've had conversations with several people. We've had conversations with people in Saltmarsh because we believe that some of an undead problem may be going to Saltmarsh now, which may be linked to other things as well that's kicking off in the area. But also, this is the place where undead have been perceived. And speaking to Major Ursa, he believes that this is where an undead problem has started and formed. So, actually, we were quite surprised to find people of a less than undead nature in these here parts, especially considering the trials we went through to get over the dunes.
And Osmandius sort of nods impassively, and he says, let me congratulate you on your initiative, then.
Thanks.
I'm glad to see that there are some who are still willing to act bravely. And he kind of like looks around at the people there. It appears that you've come under some misapprehension. We don't have an undead problem. We do have another problem, though, which is that we would, as you can see, our facilities here have been knocked down. They've been in better shape, and they need to be rebuilt. So we need somehow to get back to the mainland, and as you might have noticed, we don't have a boat available to us. So, I could imagine a scenario where we may avoid any kind of bloodshed. But before we go any further, I suppose I must ask, are you saying that Saltmarsh sent you directly to deal with us?
We're what you would call freelance operators currently in the employment in sort of someone in Saltmarsh. That's very true. Largely trying to figure out why there seems to be civil unrest within a number of different circles near the Saltmarsh and along the Caelan coast.
And he nods. All right, go on. Where do we fit into this?
I'm going to take a step closer to him, not in like an aggressive way.
I was going to say, because the guards are like slightly leaning forward.
I would like to think that Silva has portrayed himself as being the kind of diplomatic child of the group, the least threatening.
Yes.
At this point, so he sort of like folds his arms in a sort of not a sheepish way, but not like a standoffish way. And he sort of leans in and goes, "What do you know of the Sahugan?"
And he sort of blinks and he says, beasts of the sea. I don't
Yeah.
spend much time thinking about the Sahuagin, or in fact would spend not much time about thinking about the sea if it wasn't keeping us from getting back to the mainland where we can find ways to rebuild here.
Well, interesting that you might find it. The Sahuagin have taken an interest in several areas along the I nearly said the Sword Coast then, along the coast of the Azure Sea. Something is driving them forwards. Now that same thing, if you don't have an undead problem, that same thing may be creating an undead problem. And this place, as you may understand, has a bit of a reputation for it. So, we wanted to find out where that reputation came from, if this was connected to any of the issues that are currently plaguing the coast. I mean, you guys have been here for a while, right? You know, I can't imagine you get many news updates or pigeons carrying letters from the mainland. So, finding out that there's potentially some sort of unrest with some of the lesser friendly species of the coast, and the humans and elves and dwarves might come as a bit of a surprise. However, if this place has something to do with it, it'd be more than beneficial to make sure you're not part of it. Get you out of here, so to speak.
I'm sure. Do you suppose... And then there's a doof, 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 doof. And he sort of nods at one of the guards.
That'd be the door. That'd be the door.
Yeah, he nods at one of the guards who sort of turns to go to where you're standing, Waves. Do you allow him to go to the door to open it?
Yeah, but I stay close and I whisper towards all my companions that are close to me by repeating the words that Golden Amulet guy Osmandius was saying. He's the one with the
Yes,
yeah, I
he's
think
the one in the medallion,
like
Man.
Saltmarsh sent you to deal with us, to deal with us, to deal with us.
Can I take this opportunity just to casually step back towards the wall and nonchalantly lean against it, just so I haven't got my back to the big dude in the corner?
Absolutely, who has been staring at the whole group of you and still has his spear in his hand. But yes, you can do that for sure.
Oh, that augment.
This guy opens the door, and in comes the half-elf that I mentioned before.
Another.
And yeah, exactly. One of 30 more in this room alone. No.
Just now serving NPC number 16, please.
And he comes in and he says, my apologies, Osmandius, but I thought that you might appreciate having my feedback on this. And there's this sort of pause. Then Osmandius nods and says, perhaps I would at that, Bayleaf. Yes, you can certainly be a part of the conversation. And Bayleaf nods and takes up a position next to the guard that let him in. The door was closed again by the guard here once he did that. And he listens intently as Osmandius continues his discussion with you and says, so, you have things that you wish to do to assist in this regard relating to questions about the undead. I can understand that. We certainly have, as you say, a reputation. I think it's important to say, though, that reputations don't count for much in Saltmarsh. It seems that people make up their minds without knowing the true facts, and we found that to be the case when dealing with people from that town before. There seems to be a misunderstanding of what, let us call it, religious freedom is all about.
That's fair enough. I've been labelled a thief, a pickpocket, and an untrustworthy urchin during my
That's
1
just by
year
me.
in and that was only today. During my 1 year living on the streets of Saltmarsh, because who wants to put board up for an untrustworthy urchin?
He shakes his head. I wish I could say I was surprised, but you see, that's the way that they do things there. I imagine you were sent to find out details about us, and I imagine the rewards that you've gotten have been paltry at best. That's the way their council works. Certainly, they've told you that we are some kind of a threat, and then they've paid you nothing to go deal with that threat. Isn't it something like that?
Ah, you've worked with them before then?
You a mind reader?
I'm familiar with them, yes. And that's deeply frustrating. It's not the way that I treat my people. And he looks around at his very weary, dirty people, but they don't say no. In fairness, he
these
also looks
very-
weary and dirty. So
Yeah.
These very dirty, very people, are they by chance wearing any kind of cloaks?
they're
That I now
not.
just realized that they, or at least some of them.
We're actually surrounded by people in scarlet cloaks.
Exactly.
Just asking, just
You don't see any
asking, maybe.
you don't see
asking
any
for a vision.
scarlet upon them. I should say as well that the only ones you've seen in cloaks so far were the ones that were outside this room, the ones that were gambling with Ogmund to begin with, but they were not
Were
scarlet
those
either.
not scarlet cloaks?
Nope.
They're just
But
normal.
They're just
clothes.
very dirty.
Just checking in. We had this vision of the skeletal hand, and didn't we have a vision of people with scarlet cloaks connected to this
Yes.
island?
No, there were two separate visions, I think.
Yeah, and another vision. Yeah.
I think they might have been two separate visions. I'm not 100% certain. Or one vision split into two sort of parts. I know we had a vision of the Isle, and we had a vision of someone in a scarlet cloak.
Yeah, I thought there was something with scarlet cloaky connected to the island.
Yeah, it was another vision with a crystal ball, wasn't it? That we saw.
There was an
We-
evil cleric in the island vision.
There
I didn't
wasn't.
have-
Oh.
I didn't have a specific note beyond that.
I had notes saying that it was actually Saren Wave Chaser that we saw in the dark
Scanner Wave
red,
Chase, that was it, yeah.
robes.
That was the butler, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Scared
yeah.
Wave
The
Chaser
assistant,
is his
yeah.
brother, yeah.
The person, yeah. Anders on.
Well, you know what they say about butlers.
Absolutely. They can buttle with the best of them. So I think table talk for a second. I think the we were sent here because we think this is where the undead
undead
issue
threat.
might be stemming from, basically.
Yeah.
And whatever's powering the sort of the Sahugan might also be using this as some sort of conduit or taking control of the undead or something like that. We surmise that anyway.
At least the undead threat is somehow connected to the war efforts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would like to stare at this guy because I think he's just lying to us, or at least trying to persuade us that he is not who he seems. Except for that little thing where he suddenly said that we could be sent to deal with them, which...
Yeah, can I
Might
inside
have
check
been
in
the
because he
slip-up.
specifically said
Yeah.
sent to deal with us, which
Sure.
has been stuck in my head.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's
Go ahead
inside
and
check
make an
this
insight
guy.
check.
11.
10. But I still have green. I'm gonna use green.
Still have
but how
green,
much?
yeah, use green.
Green plus 6. I'm just gonna roll a d20 and then add 6 in my mind, okay?
Okay.
20.
So 20, not natural. Okay. From Waves and Morthwill's point of view, I mean, you know, obviously this guy seems a little slimy in the sense of just sort of his demeanor, but you don't, there doesn't seem to be anything specific, though, that you can kind of latch onto because they are self-evidently dirty, weary, and presumably trapped. And you do remember that there was very little wood on this island with which to build a boat or anything else. So that part of the story seems to be true. Green probably gets the sense, I would say, that there's more to the story than Ozymandias is telling. They clearly do want to get off the island. Why they want to get off the island? I mean, any people that keep a place this dirty, I don't know how much Green could trust those people to begin with, right? Like, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, no. This is not a good sign about
I'm
people.
impressed Green came in, I'll be honest with you.
yeah. And Ozymandias says, "Do you have us at a disadvantage, though? What exactly are all of your names? I am Ozymandias, the leader of these people." And he sort of goes around and introduces, just points them greatly. "I believe this is Bayleaf, our associate." And Bayleaf kind of, again, sort of nods at you respectfully, a little bit of that bemused smile on his face. He introduces the guards, and then he says, "And I believe you've already met Ogmund," who
I
growls
sort of
softly.
wave coyly to Ogmund.
He
Like, hi, Ogmund.
"Arr."
We're
And
friends.
Ozymandias says, "And your names?"
Oh, I am Silvo Janus Bertulus, born and raised in Seaton, and currently a resident, he says a resident of Saltmarsh.
And he nods and looks at the others of you expectantly.
I decide to play dumb and give a parrot hello.
This is our Kenku companion. They have a strange way with words. As in, they don't really speak. Bloody good with a sword, though.
His eyes kind of narrow a bit. I see.
You're carrying a rapier.
A rapier is not a sword.
It
Don't
is
you
a
know
sword.
anything? No.
It's not a fork.
Totally is a sword. It's a certain kind of sword. Okay. It looks over at Green.
Oh. Oh, I'm green.
And he kind of sort of pauses and like waiting to hear if there's anything else, and then
I'm going to lean into Osmandius and go, poor thing was traumatized. We rescued it from a ship. Hasn't really spoken since, but we're trying to reintegrate it into society. Doesn't like dirt or anything filthy, so this probably isn't the nicest place for them. No offense.
understandable. And then he looks at you, Brian.
I'm gonna wipe my as Silvo's explaining this. I'm gonna wipe my fairly dirty hand on my clothes and then pat Green on the shoulder as I'm standing next to them. I can't find where I read it, but when I rolled my character as part of being a pirate, I had certain advantages on intimidation if people had heard of me as a pirate.
Okay.
So I'm going to, but I can't remember the wording on it, and I've been Googling whilst we've been saying this, and I can't find it. But yeah, I'm going to just stand my tallest, like crick my neck.
Okay.
And say, my name is Brian the Bloodthirsty, formerly of the sea, and now I'm checking out my land legs.
I would like an insight check from everybody, please.
Dun, dun,
I
dun.
am really not very wise.
Hey, that's her door anyway.
So wait, an insight check. Is she really? No. Silvo, you're like, I don't know. Can I really believe that she... Wait a minute, that's Brian.
Yeah, are you really?
Yeah, same thing with Brian. Brian's like, am I really myself?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We got a 2, a 2, a
So
10.
bad at this.
I'm waiting to see
Where
what...
are all our killer rolls we had?
Waves, was that also a 10? Oh, wait, is that... No, you incited. That was the previous insight.
One moment.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that
the
was
new
a previous insight. I'll try to have another insight.
Okay.
One moment. There.
Double insight.
Too many things open tonight. 18 for
Okay.
waves, and it's +6 for. So that's 25 for green.
Yeah. So I would say Morthwell and
For
Silva don't
green.
really notice anything in particular. However, Waves and Green notice a almost palpable stiffening of the people in the room when they hear pirate, or of the sea, I should say. Brian the Bloodthirsty of the sea. And Osmandius says, "You're a pirate, I believe."
I'm a water genasi.
And they kind of glance at each other. You can feel like the temperature in the room is dropped by about 10 degrees, if you know what I mean.
I can
The
fix that right up.
yeah, I'll bet. Brian,
wonder
you can
how.
Brian, you don't even need to have a spectacular insight to feel quite obviously the sort of you hear knuckles cracking behind you, and you can see that Ogmund is very aware of your presence, like looming over you. Even standing at your tallest, and you're not short, still about a foot, maybe 7-8 inches shorter than him. But you can see that you can feel him looming over you. And then the Osmandius says, "Interesting. And you?" And he looks at you, Morthwell.
I'm Morthwell, formerly of the Gold Hills, have been resident of Saltmarsh for 120, over a century.
I see. So you know something of the council's dealings too, I suppose.
Ugh.
Well, it seems like we have certain common purpose. If you're able to help us, we can demonstrate that we are not, in fact, a threat, and perhaps might be able to address this undead concern you have. We don't have this problem ourselves, you understand, but we've done a bit of study of the undead, and might be able to give some assistance in addressing them. Now, this Sohugin thing that you mentioned, we have not seen anything of them, but we've been more occupied with our own affairs, at which point it's very clear that Ozymandias' eyes, Brian, flicker towards you. You've noticed that, like I said, there's been a lot of focus on you over the last 30 seconds. And he says, so, we don't need very much, frankly, in return. Simply I'm sorry, actually, one other thing. Green, that 25 that you had would mention one other thing. Bayleaf does not seem perturbed in the same way the others are. I mean, Bayleaf is interested, clearly, but the others are very much like, you mother, is like very much like tension. Bayleaf does not seem to be about the tension.
So Bayleaf seems to be more relaxed about Brian possibly being a pilot.
Yes, I would say that's fair.
Okay.
And so Osmandius says, so it's really very simple. We'll be happy to come to an accommodation if you can provide myself and my 3 companions here, and he indicates the 2 guards and then Ogmund, passage to the mainland. Once we're there, we should be able to procure our own return to the island and perhaps start working on rebuilding. I'm sure you can imagine it's been quite a loss, and we've really struggled with all of it.
What about the nervous, gaunt-looking fellow outside?
And he pauses. He says, you mean Odium? Well,
Could be.
he's not part of our original party, you might say. And, he's a grumbler. Let's put it that way. Never satisfied with his lot in life, I imagine you know the type. He's, that sort of person. And, Odium will do what I tell him to do.
So you say not part of your original party. How did you lot get mixed up together? What actually happened?
Some of that, of course, is beyond the scope of our conversation, but, there was a disagreement with former colleagues of ours that led to a misunderstanding and our current situation. Well, he was visiting from the mainland, from other members of our group, and when the disagreement with the associates happened, he was caught in the middle of it, and since then has wanted nothing more than to simply depart and leave. And we've tried to explain that it's all for one and one for all and all that. He does belong to the organization, but he seems to have taken a different approach to it. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that he's fully stable. It seems to have really unsettled him, truthfully.
Organization?
Yes. Let us call ourselves a group of faith and belief. Let us put it that way.
And if you had to, I don't know, put a name to this faith and belief, I only ask because there's been certain groups who have been quite adamant about maybe seeing us at the bottom of the ocean. We want to make sure that we're not crossing paths with people who we may or may not have annoyed in the past.
Oh, well, that is not something we would do. That sort of behavior is for the council, your own town council, that likes to betray each other and you. No, we prefer to reward and support those who work on our behalf. And, it's fair to say that there are substantial rewards. In your case, I could imagine, rewards of treasure of various kinds, including magic. Assuming, that is, that you were able to give us assistance without deceit. We like to reward those who are supportive of us. You could have even an honored place in our organization if you played your cards correctly. Our job is to spread the beliefs that
Everybody
we have.
disliked that.
Our job is to spread our beliefs and to work through our religious principles here in safety. That's all we require. And now we simply require a way to rebuild. It's not so different as if one of the temples of Saltmarsh was burned down. You can imagine those adherents wanting to rebuild it. Well, we want to do the same.
That's very, very interesting. I'm something of a religious scholar myself. Perhaps we could exchange tenets of your religion in the essence of furthering knowledge and goodwill.
And he nods. He says, well, that sounds like it might be intriguing indeed. But before we go further, I do have practical concerns. And he kind of smiles broadly. He says, unfortunately, my people are hungry and tired. We have been through quite a bit as of late. And so before I say anything about, religious exchanges, which I could speak about all day, I'm reminded all of a sudden of Hans Gruber and Die Hard. I could talk men's fashions and terrorist causes all day, but instead, he says, but I could do this all day, but I do need to consider my people. And that means we need to start working on getting this rebuilt. I don't suppose any of you might have any supplies you could leave. And I should mention, of course, there would be a reward for this support. We would be able to, first of all, give you some monetary benefit and, on top of it, an honored place in our organization. You might find it interesting. A good deal of adventure to be had if you spend time with us, and we would treat you seriously and treat you well, as opposed to the council, which, when it's not fighting each other, is looking with suspicion on everyone else. I imagine, he says to you, Morthwill, that you've had to face your own form of bigotry. Didn't match up to what they wanted for their own town, did they? Thought you were a little bit too different from the norm as they saw it, I imagine.
I can't say I've had it worse than many others over there.
It should have been better. You all made it here. That shows that you have bravery, courage, wisdom, a little bit of intelligence. Why, we didn't even know you were here until you came through the door. You must have had great skill and stealth at getting down there to the door in the first place.
See,
and
I
he
told
looks
you
over at
exactly.
Ogmund, and Ogmund is sort of, and kind of like, he gives him the stare as if to say, what do you mean? That wasn't what happened. You get the impression Ogmund may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, so to speak.
Green intersects because there's been a lot of talk about hunger and everything. Do you eat people?
Certainly not. We're not cannibals. We have no interest in eating people. We have interest in eating regular food, like, well, for example, I could imagine, just different sorts of foods, but not certainly anything that would require the eating of living creatures. We're not all that interested in the living to begin with, other than simply being allowed to pursue our religious beliefs.
Silvo leans into Osmandius and goes, see, I told you, poor thing, traumatized beyond belief.
Indeed, indeed. Well,
So
a
I
place
think
of honor, a reward, and all just for bringing myself and my 3 companions here to the mainland. And perhaps a little
Absolutely.
food.
I don't think that's too much of an ask. What I would say is maybe if we put a pause on maybe a place at the organization, because if we would want to give you our full attention, and right now we have our attentions firmly in the grasp of the Saltmarsh Council. What we would like, though, is to just understand your relationship or interest or research into the undead and really why this place is so interesting to them. And if there's anything that you've researched recently that, could, make the undead act in an interesting way, or marshal them, or rile them up a bit, if there's anything that, I don't know if there's any artifacts or anything like that maybe you could help us with. Once we have that knowledge,
turns to glare at Silver.
I'm very aware of the horn in your bag of holding, by the way. And just, once we've got that information, obviously we know we've come here, you guys are stuck here. Like, we didn't even know there would be people here. We thought it was going to be overrun with skeletons and zombies and goodness knows what. But, we come here, we do the research we need to do, we find out what we can do. And then once we've got something to go back with, then we can lay the groundwork for getting you guys off here and the provisions.
Well, while I appreciate your sense of balance and trade, it is an obligation for me to make sure that my people are taken care of before some of these negotiations begin. Now, what you say is not unreasonable, but I think it is important that we work together to find some sort of common purpose that allows my people to be taken care of. And that means, we need some way to be able to get to the mainland to bring supplies and food back to this island. And that really is all that we're asking. Certainly, we'd be willing to talk to you about other things that have been discovered here, and might even be willing to advance you a little bit of money to begin with, but only if we were in the process of going to the ship that you no doubt arrived at the island on.
Quick table talk just for 1 second. How did we get to the island? Because I have forgotten.
With a
I
ship.
was just thinking that, but it was only a small ship, right?
Is the ship still there?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Excellent stuff.
So you hope.
Yeah.
I think we put it on the beach,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I think I'm mixing it up with another ship because we've been on a lot of ships.
We've
I
gone
couldn't
through a
remember
fair
if we
few
were,
ships.
Yeah.
And boats.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if we were dropped off and that someone was coming back for
No.
us, or we
Nope.
just came here. Okay, cool.
I think this time we wouldn't drop off. I think this time we came here on our own.
Stopping
So-
at the lighthouse on the way.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was us. Also, Waves, by the way, is getting more and more fascinated by this guy because Kenkus are made to be the perfect minions, and this is the talk of a guy who knows his minions
Yeah. Absolutely.
and treasure and organization and going on boats. So Waves is actually like, yeah, come on, let's sail around with this guy.
This guy knows what he's talking about. We should be following this guy.
Yeah.
Let's put him in charge.
So, now that we've had this little bit of
Waves is visibly more relaxed after all of this monologue.
So after we've had this little exchange, it seems that there is no need for unfortunate fisticuffs. I am glad. Now I assume that all the members of your party are on board with our willingness to work with each other, and his eyes flicker quite obviously to Brian.
Brian is obviously paying close attention and keeping a side eye on everyone, but all while like nonchalantly like picking her nails and just looking as bored and as unthreatening as possible.
You still haven't
So
told
I-
us the
I-
name of your organization.
Well, there are some things that we need to be careful not to reveal to all outsiders. I imagine it would be... what do you do, if I may ask, in Saltmarsh? I have not been there for some considerable period of time.
Oh, this and that, you know.
And he kind of like sort of looks at you and he says, perhaps certainly more than that. A builder, perhaps?
I'm a dwarf. What else am I here for? I'm here to deal with the rocks and the stones.
And he nods and he says, well, I'm sure you can imagine that if people started asking you about all the secrets of your trade, you might become a little concerned. We need to be careful, you see. There's a lot of superstition in Saltmarsh. If we were to start revealing to everyone the names of our organization, well, those superstitions get caught up in things. I am really just a simple leader attempting to lead his people the best I can in a difficult situation. And we would love to know more about all of you and your processes and so forth. But first, as I say, it would be of great value to actually finalize this idea about receiving our travel. And then I would be happy to provide you with something. We don't have a lot of food, I'm afraid. That's part of the problem. But we would certainly be willing to speak to you a little bit about how this whole business works, if we could be moving in the general direction of the boat that you came with.
I understand. I do understand. Truly, I do. It's just, as you're saying, reputation is very, very important, especially for someone in my diminished position, as you were putting it. And, hypothetically speaking, if you were with a group like those Dunderheads in the Scarlet Brotherhood, that would probably reflect badly on us.
And he kind of looks at you and he says, the Scarlet Brotherhood. Well, they do have their fingers in all the pies, do they not? You know, there was a rumor, the times that I used to spend on the mainland, that the Scarlet Brotherhood was very involved in the town of Saltmarsh. I wonder if you can fully trust your involvement with them. Who knows, the town council themselves might be swarming with Scarlet Brotherhood. We prefer to have a more simpler, one-on-one approach, and not rely on these, and he kind of waves his hand, third parties.
Waves looks happily around and says, and I know the sound sample is bad.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I mean, that is true. How big was the boat that we came in?
I'm trying to remember what boat that they gave you. I believe, I think the boat, because you were doing, you were using the Mariners Guild, had a boat. It's probably big enough. I mean, if he's asking to bring himself and 3 other people, it's probably big enough to accommodate that. You don't know that it could accommodate like 9 extra people, that are like here, or 8 or 9.
So it could be the part us and him and 3 other people.
You think so? Yes, be a tight squeeze, but could be.
Okay, so I'll say this to Osmandius. Well, I mean, the boat has probably got enough space for all of us, pretty much most of the people in this room, to be honest with you. Yeah, we could probably take you to the mainland, at the very least, get you people some food, maybe some basic provisions, and then come back and then start work on the research we need to do.
And he says, well, very well. So you're offering to bring the group then, not all of my people, but as many as you can fit.
Yeah, it's not a big boat, as many as I can fit. So I'm assuming it's going to be yourself, maybe big guy, and Bayleaf, and some guards? What do you reckon?
And so he sort of looks around and looks at Bayleaf, and Bayleaf kind of, glances back at him. And Osmandius says, well, we'd have to see. I would certainly bring Ogmund with me, and perhaps, and he looks at a couple of the others. Over there, I imagine we would bring Fitzwilliam, and he points at one of the guards. And I might be able to bring, well, he looks at Bayleaf. He says, of course, I imagine that some might want to leave even if they haven't been asked. And Bayleaf nods and says, well, no one says that you have to tell someone like Odium about it. He'll try to swim after the boat, perhaps, and then you'd be well rid of him either way. And Osmandius says,
I wouldn't be too surprised if he's already halfway down towards the beach.
And Osmandius sort of looks and kind of like half smiles, not a very pleasant one, and says, perhaps. And then sort of changing the subject quickly says, very well. In the end, then, and he sort of looks down and glances at you. In the end, I suppose, looks like we can make a certain arrangement. That's good. I certainly wouldn't want to have any sort of bloodshed. Perhaps, if you're willing to do this, I can gather, make some plans if I may. I can leave you in here with a couple of my people, only a couple. I don't want any misunderstandings, of course, and make sure that I gather what I need. And he sort of nods at you and gives this sort of half smile and says, I imagine that there are many brave ones among you who would be willing to, who would feel the need to rescue those who are in trouble. I can already see you have several of them right here. And he nods approvingly at you, Waves, and nods at the others, and definitely does not nod at Brian still, and says, so perhaps, if you don't mind, I think that we could, if you wanted some rest, you'd certainly be welcome to get some here, but I do have to leave 1 or 2 of my men here, but only a couple. I don't want any misunderstanding, as I say, and then we can make plans to leave here, well, this afternoon, if it's doable for you.
That seems doable. The only thing I would suggest, and I sort of lean again, I sort of fold his arm, Silver folds his arm and sort of leans into Osmandius and says, My concern is this place isn't good for Green's recovery. Do you think maybe your people could stand outside with us?
And he says, "Oh, well, I suppose if your Green here was staying inside the room and you were all directly outside, that might be all right, although, truthfully, several of you might be better. I wouldn't want to distract anyone outside from some of their work as we get ready to
No,
depart."
I mean, my apologies. I mean outside.
Oh, the entire place?
Yeah, just if you have a couple of your people stand with us, obviously, so that you're aware that we're still here and you can make any provisions that you need. That means that Green is in the best place for them. We've done quite strong work with Green over the last few weeks, and I don't want to undo any of the healing that Green has gone through.
So
If anybody looks at Green, you'll see that the door that Green is standing up is really, really clean. And that now Green is moving towards the wall.
So you want me to leave Green here while the rest of you, like, inside this place?
No. All of us, and whomever you want to be with us, wait just outside of this abbey
I see. And
to wait for you.
I see. So myself and several of my companions, in other words.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
and with all of you.
Yeah, so basically, so similar to in this room, like you wanted to leave all of us in this room with 2 of your guards, right? That's totally fine. But could that be just outside of the abbey, just for Green's peace of mind, just while you get ready and make provisions?
I have a question on this, Silvo. Are you trying to persuade or deceive him?
I'd probably say persuade, because we've already discussed.
Green is actually in distress, so it's not a lie.
Yeah, Green is traumatized, and Green's not acting.
Let's
you know
have you
what I
make a
mean?
persuasion check for me, then, Silvo.
While Silvo's doing that, Arv, I know that you said that there was not much, like, no animals, no insects, no flies, but there were a couple of birds overhead.
Right.
Were there enough birds for Brian to make the suggestion that maybe while we're outside, I could maybe go hunting and get your crew some food whilst we rest?
It's a
Mortal
good...
pointedly pulls out a piece of jerky at that point and starts eating it without addressing anyone in the room.
It's a good question, Brian. Presumably, you only heard 1 or 2 calls. You didn't actually see a seagull. You just heard the calls. You don't, I mean, whether it would be credible or not, you don't know, but it's not like there were a lot of animals around, like even birds. I don't know, fishing, if you could figure a way to fish off of, like, steep cliffs, but you don't, I mean, again, you can ask what you like, but just based on the number, you didn't see a lot of birds. Just heard a couple of calls.
And the cliffs were too steep for me to go swimming and go and catch some fish that way.
Yeah, you would be dashed against the... I mean, you might be able to avoid it barely, but it would be hard even for a water genasi. It is very treacherous around the rest of the island. Of course, there's always the pleasant skull dunes.
I'm just going to continue to pick my nails and not make any helpful suggestions.
So he says, "All right, well, very well. Let's just be off then. Let's head at least outside this room." And he will, again, the guards are going to carefully watch you all as Osmandius heads outside the room. Depends on whether you're following along with them, but they are very clearly making it. There are people in front of you and behind you, so they are not just going to let you, wander off on your own.
No. So yeah. Silvo is going to sort of lead, like sort of put his arm around Green and sort of comfort them and lead them towards the main door.
Okay.
Like the door outside.
Right. Okay. That's you and right. Okay. And then the rest, Waves and Morthwill, you're headed outside as
I'm
well.
going to walk in front of every single one of them while chewing on the jerky. Right past them, just chomping away.
Yep. You can see that they're all sort of staring. And
sorry,
as they
it's
come
my last
out,
piece.
That is not true.
Waves, are you coming out as well?
Like you bloody know. What's true or
Waves
what's not
also
right
coming,
now.
but Waves is feeling really good about all of this, and it's more or less like strutting towards the exit stairs.
I thought you were going to say you're just straight after Osmandius.
I was considering it for a moment, but Master didn't invite me, so
No.
Hey, I'm going to move you back to one spot just for a second, Morthwill.
yep.
Only because when you get outside of the room and you're headed towards, sorry, chat, I just realized that wasn't updated. Now it's updated. Here, you. Okay, there we go. Right. When you are moved here, you hear a whisper behind you, Morthwill, and it is Bayleaf, and he says, "You know, if I were you, I wouldn't necessarily trust someone who deals in the undead, and I certainly wouldn't trust Osmandius with anything more good than his own self-opinion. I can talk with you about it alone." And that's where we're going to bring our session to a close for today. So,
Dun,
we
dun, dun.
we have entered it's a very pleasant conversation. I think we've arranged things very well with someone that the party finds super sus, except for Waves, who thinks this is amazing. This is great. Like, I love everything about it. And Morthwheel's got someone talking to him about betrayal, and you have another guy who wants to get off the island, and yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff happening. No combat in this one, just a whole lot of tension.
Isn't it so
Lot
weird
of
when you
billowing
like,
bullshit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Silvo did say, he can be quite convincing. Do you know what I mean? At times, and he just sort of has this new confidence about him now.
Yes, it was very funny to see it, and of course the reaction to Brian being like, "I'm of the sea," Brian the Bloodthirsty, and everyone being like
That
you know,
went down
dead,
like
like
a lead balloon.
you know,
And
yeah,
nobody
like,
picked up on it except for, who was it again? Just one person, I think, got the role to pick up on that.
Yeah.
on the fact that the temperature dropped in the room, so to speak. Yes, yeah. So it's going to be very curious to see how everyone handles things in our next session, and you know, I'm also interested to see what happens, whether they're going to leave the Abbey. Will they get everyone out of the Abbey? Who knows what's going to happen? Except that I think we are potentially on for next week. Yes, we talked about the possibility of doing next week scheduled.
As far as
So yeah, so we may have a chance to move this on next week. We may see what's going to happen, and you'll have to come back and join us to find out how that works. As I said, Undeveloped Bruce was not feeling under the weather today, but we will have them back with us next week playing Green, although I thought Pyron did a very credible job in playing Green, Green the Clean, so to speak. And I am very interested to see how Undeveloped Bruce picks up on this at that point. Because really, like, the place, as more I read descriptions about how dirty and filthy the place was, I'm like, man, this is going to be not a good time for Green. But you'll find more about Undeveloped Bruce next week. Inanna, again, pleasure to have you back with us again, back in Brian the Bloodthirsty's shoes. And yeah, we got a little bit of the, I know about pirates. I've been one myself. So I am very curious to see what that's going to do in terms of the reaction, which has been much less positive towards you than the others you have noticed so far, given some of these circumstances. So how did you feel about our session today? And will the folks see you anywhere before next week back with us?
Brian isn't that wise, so I think she possibly thought that her pirate intimidation caused the reaction, as opposed to them disgusted that she was a pirate. But we'll find out, I'm sure. I really enjoyed today's session. Obviously, Brian needs to work on her interpretive dance skills.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
That's something.
But your telepathy's on point.
Yeah.
Say again.
Your telepathy is on point.
There's light under the door.
Now that she knows telepathy is a thing, Like every time Silvo does this in the future, she's just going to be screaming at the top of her voice because that's the only reason, that's the only way she knew it worked. So I look forward to that too. But yeah, really enjoyed today's session. It's lovely to be back. It's been about 3 or 4 months since I've like properly streamed. But I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I will be back on my channel next week for the first time in forever.
Yay.
So fingers crossed.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Ananda. And yes, I hope things continue to move in the right direction. Also a pleasure to have once again Wholesome Horror Gaming, Peripheral Mike, Mike with us. Again, Mike, Silvo definitely got a lot of chance to practice the BS today, hanging out with the rest of the crew. And yes, I think there is. I like the fact that there's been this turn where Silvo is feeling more comfortable than he ever has with himself and in his own skin in the ways that you've described. But still, you know, like I love the idea that as you're going in and talking to them, like you get more and more people entering the room till you're just like, yeah, there's more. There's a lot of you out here right now here. And so that was interesting to me to see, but you continue to kind of play it the way that you did. And I am also interested to see how far this negotiation is going to go, since I imagine Silvo has the same suspicions everybody else does, except Silvo is just continuing to play this. Let's just play this down the line, you know, like everything's fine, everything's great. You know, while the guy makes his commentary, which you may know to be partially true anyway, about the way that the Saltmarsh residents have treated you to this point. So how did you feel about today's session, and will the folks see you anywhere else before next week?
So Silvo, I mean, first I loved this session. It's the first session back in the new year, and it's absolutely fantastic. Like I always say, hook this feeling into my veins immediately. It is weird for Silvo, very briefly. He's got this new sense of confidence, but he's got this sense of purpose now where he knows there's something much bigger going on in the world, and he is now part of it. There is something quite cataclysmic happening that he has not influence over, but he can prevent big bad from happening. He can be part of preventing big bad from happening. So there is this sort of like he's got experience talking to slime balls, like criminal slime balls, and you know, currying favor with them. Do you know what I mean? So like this is kind of his wheelhouse. So even if he, you know, seems to be very on board with this person, he's like, yeah, you know, we'll be mates, and you know, I'll be your best mate, and we'll trade, and we'll do this, that, and the other. Like secretly, he's thinking, well, you're in the way, and I just don't want us to have to butcher you guys. Do you know what I mean? Like this is just going to be messy one way or the other. So we can just get what we need out of you, and if all you need is food and provisions, and you're not, you know, as far as we know, slaughtering newborns on a cliffside somewhere, do what you need to do, man. Like, everyone's got different religious beliefs. As long as you're not, like, actually actively participating in this unknown demigod trying to murder the world, like, fill your boots. Do what you need, right? I'm not a paladin. I'm not chaotic good. There's evil in the world, and you might be one of the lower rungs of that ladder. That's absolutely fine. So yes, it's interesting, and like you said, that sort of newfound confidence that he's got, he's sort of stepping into his own. He's comfortable in his own skin, and he's stepping into his own sort of maturity, which I quite like. But for myself, anyway, yeah, you can find me on Friday. I'm going to be streaming on Friday night from about 6:30, I think, to about 8:30, and then PM GMT, and then from about 9:30, I'm going to have a break for some food. 9:30 till about 11:30 PM GMT. So a couple of hours in the evening, couple of hours at night, basically. It's the only time I can do it with the new job at the moment, because I'm working crazy hours right now. But I will settle down just because it's a new job. But that's about it from me. Can't wait till next week.
Thank you, Mike. Great stuff tonight. Great stuff as well from Dark Saber. I did love the image of Morthwheel, like I said, sort of setting up the fire cannon when everyone at the top of the stairs was like, it sounds like there's an explosion that we need to make. And everyone down below is like, okay, be very, very quiet. You know, like the finger guns being misinterpreted as we need to shoot something. Like it was great. So there's that. The other thing is that while Silvo is not a paladin, Morthwheel is lawful good, though. And I imagine that Morthwheel, and maybe Waves, although different kind of paladin I recognize, but still,
Waves is neutral. I'm not a good character.
Yeah, I know.
This time.
I know, not this time. But I am going to be interested, and I love the idea that Waves is a minion, but I'll come to Waves in a minute. But for Morthwill, it is going to be interesting since they're kind of like, well, here's the deal, and Morthwill, who is not like the Silvo, let me kind of manage this all, let me be slick about it, this a little bit fish out of water. And I imagine that Morthwill is not so wild about the people in this island or in this place, and has some deep suspicions. What did you refer to it as? Billowing bullshit? I imagine that that's also a Morthwill comment as well as a Darksaber comment. So I am very curious about that. So there's both hilarious humor with the whole stairs thing, but also I wonder what Morthwill's going to think about that. So how did you feel under those circumstances about today's session? And I guess where will the folks see you before next week?
It was a lot of fun, and I do think kicking the door in would have been far too messy in terms of like getting into a fight. Look, especially looking at like the way people kept coming out of the side rooms. It's like, yeah, this would have gone south pretty fast.
Yeah.
I'm remembering the ship all over again, where there was wave after wave of people coming up from below deck. So. On the other hand, he thinks Silvo is absolutely in the process of making a huge mistake, but he can't really. He also is not in a position where he can yell that out, and his prying for information didn't go very well. He's no Columbo.
Mm-hmm. One more thing. Well, never mind.
So yeah, but Bayleaf at the end there is going to come in pretty interesting, I think, next session. So I definitely can't wait for that. And it's been great to have Brian Brian / Ananda back again as well. We missed you. So that's been wonderful. And yeah, bring on next week. But until then, I'll be here tomorrow. And you still need to pick a game. I'm going to get on that right after the stream again. And I'll be back on my channel, twitch.tv/DarkSaber2K on Thursday, playing something. I don't know. Probably Cyberpunk. We've been going through a playthrough of that.
Should be a good time either way. Thanks, Saber. Good stuff today. Thanks again on Dashboard and Moobot. Last but certainly not least, Pyron, I love first of all, again, the stealth fail followed by all of the, that again, the whole stairs thing was awesome. But I also really love the idea, which I had not anticipated till you started mentioning it. Like Kenku were all about being minions. Like I'm picking up what this guy is laying down. That was very funny. I had not necessarily anticipated that per se. And the idea that everyone else has different reactions, like Morthwill's like, and Silva's like, okay, just till we can get what we need. And Brian's like, I'm the pirate, which I guess is work to intimidate, but maybe not. And then you just being like, I like people who tell me what to do, right? Like that sort of thing was very funny to me. And I'll be curious to see how things kind of move going forward. So how did you feel about all of that fun stuff in the session, and where will the fine folks find you before next week?
Then I don't think they're gonna find me before next week. There's like only 1 week before next week, so it's not a lot of time. But yeah, I liked it, and I really hope that we're gonna be like the full crew next week, because it's gonna be awesome, and I'm happy that Inanda is back. And everybody here in chat, if you haven't followed Inanda yet, do it now.
Yeah.
And once you're done with that, say in chat, I followed Inanda.
Yeah.
And then you do the same with Saber and with Mike.
Yep.
And I do assume that everybody here is already following Arf. So, but just in case, you do your thing, chat people, and do it now.
Do it now.
Yeah, do it now. Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, Waves is not a good character in that meaning, and Kenkus do have this thing about like following the leader, and so far in our group we do not have that strong leader yet. So being slightly impressed and sidetracked by such a maniac is just can happen. It can happen to the best of us Kenkus.
I have to reconstruct this entirely, so next week I'm just like, I've always found that bird followers are the best possible follower. Who is a better minion?
Are.
You know what I mean? Like just like totally everyone's like, is Waves, why is Waves looking at him admiringly? I don't know.
So yeah, very much looking forward to next week. Now even more.
Yeah, it should be fun times, and it was really great to have 4 out of 5 of you. It'll be even better if we can get all 5 together next week, but it was great times regardless. And again, very, very pleased to have. I love the energy of this crew all over, and I cannot wait to see multiple clips coming out from the stairs thing because, oh my God, that was tremendous. Anyway, chat, can we get some love for the amazing By the Dice Roll group, which we're going to see more of next week? First of all, Undeveloped Bruce, feel better. We'll see you back here next week. But also, thanks. Welcome back to Ananda. Great to see Wholesome Horror Gaming. Awesome to see Darksaber 2K, and amazing to have Pyre and Jade with us. Thank you, crew. Great job by the Dice Roll, and I will see you folks back here next week. Bye
Thanks,
for now.
Zach.
Night, everyone. Night, everyone. Miss you. Love you.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.
And that is going to do it for us for this evening. This was awesome. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. As I say, I have a blast with this crew. I talk all the time about how many great things I get from each of the crew, each of the campaigns that I'm lucky enough to DM for. But what I really get from this group is just wonderful, wonderful energy. Energy that's playing off of each other, energy that's sort of just enjoying the experience of it. There is no sort of like, I wish I knew how to min-max, like none. I don't get that, frankly, with any of my campaigns. But particularly this group is just very much like, this is cool and this is cool. And there's a lot of yes-anding in this group, which I really, really like a lot. And also very special to me because, as I may have mentioned, after the London trip in August, where we did the first sort of premiere of By the Dice Roll, hi Kilgore, that was such a great trip. And like I say, one of the best trips I've ever been on, that I honestly rode that high all the way through the fall semester. Like, it's not like everything was perfect. There were some things that happened in the world that weren't great, obviously. And some personal stuff that just had, some ups and downs a little bit. But for the most part, I was able to sort of keep things on an even keel, largely because I just kept feeling this great warmth from having gone on that trip. And a big part of that was having gotten a chance to be with these folks, meet them in person, connect with them, connect with the folks that came, all the folks that came to watch the thing as well, not just actual players, but, chat viewers, people like that too. So it was just a really great experience, and one that I hope I get to repeat again at some point. But it was really great. And so, yeah, it's great to be able to play with them, and I am super excited for what comes next. As we're not at the end game yet, chat, but we're definitely moving in the direction. It may not be the beginning of the end, but it's the end of the beginning. Let's put it that way. We're definitely moving in that direction. So that's good stuff. Again, if you liked what you saw today, please remember to follow us here on GogCom's Twitch channel. Please consider subscribing to us here on GogCom's Twitch channel, and please consider clicking through and checking out our own individual channels like Darksaber, who mentioned, and Ananda, as we talked about, Peripheral Mike, Wholesome Horror Gaming is going to be doing this on Friday, and yours truly. I'm going to be back with you folks on my channel on Thursday night playing Caves of Kood, and then Saturday I will be here be on my channel with Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks, which is a tabletop role-playing game. We are the sort of flagship campaign for them. Fantasy and science fiction mashup. Really love that campaign too. Again, for different reasons. Really cool stuff. So you can check that out Saturday night on my campaign. And then I will be back here next Tuesday for more of this awesome game. I will be back here for more of the incredible D&D with By the Dice Roll crew, doing a little bit more of that thing we like to call Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So Kilgore Trout is going to be joining us in a couple of hours. I believe Kilgore is playing... Kilgore, you're playing more Legacy of Kain tonight, am I guessing? Is that right? I could just use the next game command, but you're here. Are you doing that again, I believe? Ish, maybe? You are? Cool. So you can watch more of that from the awesome and amazing Kilgore, who's going to be joining us here on the channel in about 2 hours and 36 minutes and 3 seconds. So that is going to be a good time. But otherwise, chat, thank you so much for being here. I will see you folks, as I say, on my own channel Thursday night, again on my own channel Saturday night, on my own channel Tuesday when I'll be playing Neva, and then which is the Patreon chosen game of the month, and then right back here at 4:15 p.m. Eastern for more of By the Dice Roll, D&D with By the Dice Roll, playing Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Until then, thanks so much, everybody, and everyone, please be good to each other, and have a good night.